Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Karen hid my credit card from me and claimed it was for my own good. I, male 25, live with my close friend Josh, also male 25, and his girlfriend Anna, who's 22. It used to be just Josh and I until lockdown started back in March and Anna permanently moved in. I get along okay with Anna, but we're not super close. I guess that establishes the group dynamics. Yesterday, I couldn't find my credit card. Josh and I searched the entire apartment for 2 hours, but we couldn't find it. Then walks in Anna, after her evening walk, and goes, "What are y'all up to?" To which I ask her if she's seen my credit card. She straight up says, "Yep, she has it." I was like, "What the heck are you doing with my credit card?" To which she said that I shouldn't worry as she didn't intend to use my card. She only took it to help with my addiction. What addiction? She thinks I'm a shopaholic and that I buy way too much useless crap. She saw some movie the night before where the protagonist had this condition and shopped herself into a crazy debt. That movie reminded her of me. She said, and I quote, "You're not there yet, but you will be if someone doesn't intervene." I was angry at this point because A, I do not have a shopping problem. Even if I did, I'm using my money that I worked hard for to buy things that I like. She's absolutely no one to try to poke her nose into my business. And B, her having my card meant that she came into my room, snooped through my stuff until she found the card, which is a gross violation of my privacy. So I asked her, rather loudly, to stay the heck away from my things and that I would call the cops on her if she tried pulling a stunt like this again. Josh was not aware of her stealing and he's siding with me, but Anna's trying to convince him that her intentions were pure and that I'm grossly overreacting and being a jerk to her. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you agree with, OP or Anna? Please let us know. Just give the credit card to me. I'll make sure nothing happens to it. Yes. Entitled mom blows up at me for enforcing safety rules on her kids. Okay, some backstory is necessary here. The place I work has a carousel, specifically one made back in the 1920s, that has a lot of strict rules for riding it to ensure safety. Only 2 of those rules really matter for this story. Rule 1, one ring of the horses is off limits because they aren't 6 feet apart. And Rule 2, hold on to the horse while the carousel is moving. With that out of the way, let's begin. It was a pretty normal day at work for me, with a line of people waiting to ride, when I let this story's entitled mom and her 2 polite daughters onto the carousel. I gave my little spiel of the rules, then let them pass. Before I start the ride, I do a little walk around to make sure everyone is settled and see daughter 1 has chosen a horse that is off limits. So I walk up and politely remind her of the rule and ask if she would please move to a different horse. She apologizes and moves horses without a peep of complaint, so I start the ride. As I'm watching the ride turn, entitled mom's other daughter stops holding onto her horse. So to be audible over the music and the sound of the machinery, I cut my hands around my mouth and call, "Keep your hands on your horse, please." She holds onto her horse again, but I see entitled mom lean over and whisper to her daughter. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I'm pretty sure now she was telling her daughter she didn't have to hold on. I say that because when the carousel came around again, the girl was not holding on anymore. So I politely, but loudly, reminded her a second time. Again, the girl grabs the horse, and entitled mom leans over and whispers something. When the carousel comes around again, I see the girl is again not holding on, so I stop the carousel. When it's no longer moving, I walk towards them and start to say, "Hey, I just need you to hold on for safety," when entitled mom gets up in my face and starts screaming at me. "You have no right to talk to my kids. You embarrassed my daughter by yelling at her. You do not get to talk to my kids." I immediately back up and start trying to explain. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it's my job. But she cut me off again. No, you're not just. You're telling my kids what to do, and you have no right to do that. What is your name? At this point, I'm just crying because not only is this customer yelling at me, there's a lot of people in line watching this happen, and it's sending me into an anxiety attack. Luckily for me, my manager's office is nearby, so she comes out to check on what's happening. I don't know what she said to the entitled mom, because at that point I'd started having a full-blown panic attack. But the entitled mom and her kids were ushered away by my manager and one of my coworkers. I was later told they were kicked out entirely, while the other person I was working with led me to the office and set me down in a chair so I could calm down. Edit. Thanks everyone for the kind words and awards. This was my first encounter with an entitled parent. People in my country are usually pretty understanding, so it means a lot to me that so many people are on my side. Speaking of carousels, have you ever been on a carousel? And if so, did you like it? Please let us know. I'd rather go on a roller coaster, to be honest. Would I be the jerk if I take my son's presents from under the tree and return them? I have a 13-year-old son who has ADHD and a mood disorder. He's always been very difficult since he was about 3 years old, with constant emotional outbursts and destructive behavior. We've been in and out of therapy and psychiatrist offices since he was 5. On to the issue. He has chores that he has to do daily. He was doing his chores today and he spilled water all over the floor and counter and didn't clean it up. This is a daily thing lately, and my husband has had to tell him every day to clean it up. My husband told him to clean it up, and my son only cleaned what he spilled on the counter. My husband got upset and called him lazy. Now, my son is lazy, but I honestly think his ADHD plays a huge role in things like this. This is why I don't know if we're the jerks. My son started saying that he's not lazy and saying, "What don't you understand about I didn't see it?" with an attitude to my husband. He then refuses to do his chores and storms upstairs to his room, where he starts destroying his things, ripping pages out of books, poking holes in things like boxes and even his sheets, ripping up comics and Pokemon cards, etc. My husband went upstairs and threw everything away that had been destroyed. After, my son doubled down and took his expensive puzzle that he had been working on that he just got for his birthday last month and takes it downstairs to be thrown away. We throw it away. He was still talking back and doing a poor me thing, so my husband told him that if he didn't do his chores, we would start taking his Xmas gifts and returning them. Reasoning being, if he doesn't take care of his things we get him and treats them like trash, why are we spending all of our hard-earned money on gifts for him? My husband is all about actually returning his gifts, but I'm having a hard time with it. While I think he needs some consequence, I feel like he can't control his emotions as well as others, and I don't want to ruin his Christmas over something he can't control. But I also don't want to enable him or prevent him from learning a lesson he may need to learn. So, would I be the jerk if we return all or most of his gifts? Edit. Since a lot of you seem to think I've done nothing to help him, again, he's been in and out of therapy. He starts to do well, then we are told he doesn't need therapy anymore and treatment ends. Right now, we've had a hard time finding a therapist that accepts our insurance and that is taking new patients. Waiting lists are 6 months or longer where I am, and that's with good insurance. He still sees a doctor for his medication, and this doctor is the only reason we have an appointment in a couple weeks with a behavioral health doctor, but they can only help with short-term issues and don't offer long-term treatment. Edit 2. Just had a talk with my son. He's calmed down and apologized. He said he was triggered by being called lazy, which my husband apologized for. He feels like he's bottled his emotions up for a long time. He feels like he's never been liked by his peers, and he feels like he can't control his reactions when he gets upset. These are all valid, and he's having a heart-to-heart about his peers with my husband right now. I think his lack of friends over the years has really hurt him, and he's lashing out. We won't be taking back his Christmas presents. We have an appointment in a couple weeks for short-term mental health and are on waiting lists for long-term therapy. Thank you to everyone who gave advice. To those who say I'm not parenting or I don't care about my son, you can buzz off. I've fought for him since he was 5 to get fair treatment in school, and my family, and in life in general, and I will continue to do everything I can for him. Last edit. My husband has admitted to being the jerk. I should have intervened when I heard him call our son lazy because I knew that's not it, so I take responsibility too. We're going to get therapy for us as parents, as a very kind Redditor suggested. Well, what do you think? Would it be okay to return his Christmas gifts or not? Please let us know. Karen gets mad at me for not issuing a marriage license. Hey everyone, a little background info before we start. I work at a town hall. One of my tasks is issuing marriage licenses when lockdown restrictions ease up like they have. So, onto the story. This happened today. I had an appointment to issue a license, marriage license. I grab my mask, sanitize my hands, grab the different documents, and head down to one of our 10 by 10 rooms, big enough to have people standing 6 feet apart. Since the town hall's doors are locked to avoid walk-ins, I had to meet them at the door. Right away, this Karen had no mask. When I asked her to wear one, she said she was exempt, showing me a screenshot of a US exemption. We're in Canada. We're not allowed to ask people for proof, so I just dealt with it and pretend like she never showed me. I didn't ask. I asked her to sanitize her hands. Again, there was refusal. Oh well. So we walk into the room. Our process for a marriage license is to have them bring their application, any prior divorce or death certificates, and IDs. I asked her if her partner was going to show up, and she said yes, so we wait for about 10 minutes. This puts the appointment a little late. We have 30 minutes for each appointment, and I had one in another room right after. Partner arrives, we exchange pleasantries, and we get started. I already checked their IDs and application by email, so I quickly recheck and write the info down on the marriage license. From there, I get into the lockdown questions. 1. Where is your wedding being held at? Answer. Inside the church at X Street. No big deal. We still allow church weddings if the group is less than 10. 2. Will you be having a reception? If yes, where? Answer. Yes, and at X Banquet Hall. Red flags are sailing, so I asked the third question. 3. How big is the group of attending? Answer. All giddy. Well, for my group there's about 93 guests, and his side there will be 80 or so. We have more coming to the reception. I think in total there will be 200 people or so. I looked up at her from the license, looked to the guy, then back at her, and explained that I couldn't issue a marriage license with a gathering that large. Indoors has to be less than 10, including the couple and the officiant. Outdoors can be 30, including the 3. Well, Karen immediately flips her crap, telling me I'm infringing her right to get married, that this is all a scam, that she should be allowed to get married because she's been planning this for 3 months and already paid for all the food, etc. I tried to de-escalate, telling her I couldn't because it's against the law. I handed her a pamphlet with lockdown safe marriage info and went to walk them out. She's still throwing a tantrum. She demands to speak to my manager, so I call her down. My manager was already busy dealing with other stuff, so she wasn't in the best mood. The Karen says I was belligerent, calling her names, didn't accept that she wouldn't wear a mask, etc. My manager looks at her. Well, why don't I pull up the footage and we can take a look? The Karen flips out more, saying the same stuff as before. My manager, being done with this, looks at her and says, no clerk in this city will issue a marriage license because it is against the law. We need to write down how many people will be at their celebration. You then have to post the green paper outside the venue, and an officer may or may not drop in. If we are found to issue a license and there are more people present, you will be fined. The clerk will no longer be able to give licenses, and we will be in a lot of trouble. As you told the clerk, you have only planned this for 3 months, which means you've had enough time to know what's going on. Because of your attitude to my clerk, we will no longer be accepting any appointments for you or your partner. As far as I'm concerned, you are banned. She then took the application, stamped rejected on it, and took it with her. We ended up having to call security to escort them out of the building. Oh, and as for her partner, he did nothing. Literally sat in the chair and did nothing. But at least he wore a mask. Am I the jerk for telling a kid she'll be evicted? Before I start, let me say that the kid in the title is about 14, not some helpless toddler. Background. I, 28 female, and my husband, 29 male, live on the bottom floor in a 2-story apartment complex. Our upstairs neighbors are horrible. We've had so many problems with these rude, loud, frankly gross people. The mom, 40-ish female, works at a gas station I go to, and I think that's the only place I've seen her wear shoes. Community laundry rooms? No shoes. Checking the mail? No shoes. Taking out trash? No shoes. Mom's boyfriend, 40-ish male, doesn't live there, but he might as well. I don't know what he does or if he even has a job, but I know he stomps like an elephant and shouts when he's mad. I can't go on my front porch when he's over because he smokes cigarettes on their balcony and I can smell it from downstairs. The daughter, 14, mostly keeps to herself. She used to say hello in passing, but stopped after I tried to talk to her about the stomping and the smoking and the waltzing through public areas with dirty bare feet. There was an older brother, but he moved out a few months ago. Now the incident. The mom's boyfriend was visiting this past weekend, being his stompy, shouty, smoky self. My husband and I were exhausted from work, as we both work in the medical field. He's an EMT, I do billing. I just wanted to sleep, but I could hear them talking through the ceiling. Just as I thought they were finally going to bed, bang, bang! 2 loud crashes right above me like they had dropped bricks on the floor. It was late. I was tired. I'd had it with their noise, so I went upstairs to ask them to be quiet. This is where I think I might have turned into the jerk. The daughter answered the door. I know she wasn't the one responsible because it came from the master bedroom, but I told her if they didn't stop the noise, I would go to the apartment manager to have them evicted. She started crying, total crocodile tears, and for some reason that made me angrier. So I upped the threat and said maybe I should call the police with a noise complaint. I wouldn't. That sent her into these over-the-top dramatic sobs. The mom and boyfriend came out at that point and slammed the door in my face. I went back home knowing I'd been rough, but sure I had made my point. A while later, 10 minutes, the boyfriend came and banged on my door and yelled at me that the girl was sure she was going to be homeless because of me. I told him we both knew that won't happen, but maybe he should think about that before doing backflips directly over the bedroom of people who work in a hospital during what's going on. My husband said I owe these people an apology. I believe they deserved it for being awful neighbors. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Was OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. You shouldn't have gone off on the daughter like that. She probably hates living with them as much as you hate living underneath them. I don't work here. You work here. Okay, so starting off, I was a promoter for a company with a wide range of products where I promote their product in another company's store. I'm usually near the front of the store pitching whatever new products my company has to people as they pass by. So the amount of times people coming in and asking me for help is staggering, but most of the time I help because I usually know more or less where everything in the store is, or I know where to find someone who does, except for when I have to promote at a hardware store because them chunky boys are huge and full of things I have no clue about. So anyway, on to the story. I'm standing in front of the brushware and cleaning section promoting a spin bucket mop when a manager walks up to me with this confused-looking old man trailing behind. Manager: Where's the laminate floor cleaner? Me: Sorry, I have no clue. I was there for only a week, so I really had no clue. Manager: What do you mean you don't know? This is your section. Me: But I work for the other company, not this store. I was really taken aback by this sudden tirade, so I replied super quietly. Manager: You should know what's in your section. She then looks back at the customer, sighs dramatically, and walks into the aisle to check for herself. How the heck can she be so rude to a customer like that? This poor old man follows her like Karen's unloved toddler while she looks through all the cleaning supplies. Not finding what she's looking for, she tells him she will find someone to assist him, then storms off. I'm left with this poor old man looking around all confused, checking back to his shopping list like it will tell him where to go. 5 minutes passed, so I realize that help is not coming from the manager, so he is well and truly abandoned. I go to the promoter for another company and ask him to help since he worked there for a month already and was friends with the employees. He calls someone to come help, and within seconds, the old man is being led off to another section by an employee. I later find out the manager works at a desk and has zero clue how the rest of the store works. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my story. Am I the jerk for making my roommate's girlfriend dinner? I, 23, male, have lived with Jeff, 24, male, for 2 years. He and his girlfriend Amanda, 24, female, have been dating for a little under a year. So last night, Amanda came over to hang out with Jeff. It was already planned that she was supposed to come over, but then I guess Jeff's boss made him stay late for some reason. Amanda asked me if I'd mind if she hung out to wait for Jeff, and I told her that that was fine with me. She stayed in the living room watching Netflix on our TV, and I was in my room playing a game on my computer. After a while, I came out to the kitchen to make myself some dinner, and Amanda was still on the couch by herself. I asked her if Jeff said when he was getting home, and she said he hadn't texted her back for a while. So I asked Amanda if she wanted some dinner, and she said sure. I made food for both of us, and then felt weird just going back to my room and making her eat by herself. So I sat with her on the couch, and we watched Netflix together for a little bit. Jeff came home and saw us eating dinner, and then was upset at Amanda for not waiting for him. I said that it was my fault. I offered her food because I didn't think he'd be home for a while. Jeff told me to mind my own business, so I said whatever and went back to my room to get back into my game. Jeff and Amanda had a big fight about him being home late and her not waiting to eat dinner with him, and Amanda ended up leaving right afterwards. So then Jeff came into my room to chew me out about having a dinner date with his girlfriend and said that if I had just let her be, they wouldn't have gotten into a big fight and ruined his whole night. I said it would have been rude for me to cook in front of her without offering her anything, and he said it was rude for me to feed her without checking to see when he'd be home. I said he was being ridiculous, and he left my room and hasn't really talked to me since. I thought that he was the jerk for sure, but then my friends in the game chat wanted to know what was going on, and when I explained, they all took Jeff's side and said it was weird that I took it upon myself to hang out with his girlfriend just because she was in our apartment. I thought I was just being polite, and Jeff was probably just in a bad mood because he had to work late, but now I'm wondering if I actually did something wrong. Am I the jerk here? I think I might be, because everyone is acting like this is an aspect of bro code that I should have known about. If I was in the wrong, then I'll apologize to Jeff for overstepping boundaries. Well, who do you agree with, OP or Jeff? Please let us know. Would I be the jerk if I didn't allow my kids to go to their father's new home? My ex-husband and I have been divorced for 4 years, and we have 2 daughters together. My biggest reason for wanting the divorce was his lack of motivation. It started off as something small, but snowballed into a marriage full of anger and resentment. He's never been independent, which I didn't realize when we first got together because we were so young. So when we split up, he moved in with a friend. It was supposed to be temporary because he was only renting a room in a small house that already had 3 other people and 2 dogs, so there wasn't much room for our kids. There was only 1 bathroom, and they didn't have a bedroom of their own, or even beds to sleep in, so they only spent the night maybe 3 times the whole 3 years he lived there. He was also paying a ridiculous amount, basically half the rent plus utilities, even though his other 2 roommates and their daughter had the other 2 bedrooms. On top of that, his roommates were always drunk and fighting. I was constantly sending him listings of reasonably priced places that would be better for him to live with the kids, but he said he was fine where he was. Now his lease ended and he had to move. So again, I tried helping him find some good places, but he said he could handle it, so I let it go. Well, he decided that to save on rent, he was going to move into a utility shed in his cousin's backyard. Literally a utility shed that they renovated by putting down some flooring, hooking up some outlets and an AC unit, and called it an apartment. There are no windows, no airflows, and no room at all for the kids to play. It's about 14 by 9 feet if I had to guess. Pretty much only enough room for his mattress, dresser, and a small fridge. When he has to use the bathroom, he has to go inside his cousin's house. I thought this was going to be temporary as well because he had to move out so quickly. I figured he just couldn't find a place on time. But the other day, I found out that he bought a brand new 2021 SUV, and his justification was that his rent is so cheap now. But I haven't gotten a child support payment in the last 6 months. If I don't ask, he doesn't pay. It didn't bother me before because I knew he was struggling and the kids are well taken care of, but this just feels like a slap in the face. He has no intentions of moving. I don't want to take him to court because it will literally solve nothing except possibly sending him to jail, and I don't want to keep his kids from him either. Would I be the jerk if I didn't let my kids go to his house, or should I just let them make their own decisions? Edit. Just want to add that I do not mean I would ever take my kids away from their father unless they were in some kind of danger. He's still a good father, and I want them to have a great relationship. He can see them anytime he wants. We don't even follow the custody agreement because we're very civil with each other. My only concern is his living situation. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let them go see him or not? Please let us know. I'm telling your manager you're stealing boxes. This just happened as I was leaving work tonight. Some background. I work in the copy center of the local edition of a major national office supply retail chain. I don't have a car and normally either walk the mile home or try to get a ride with a coworker, as most have to go past my place to get home anyway, and I always ask and never assume. My store manager is currently in the process of moving, and tonight we were leaving at the same time, and I asked him for a ride home. He said it was fine and asked me to help him load some empty boxes we had saved into his pickup to help with the move. So, 6 p.m. rolls around. I clock out, put away my radio, put on my coat and grab a cart and head to the office and start loading the boxes into it. Enter self-important Karen. What are you doing? Me. Helping my coworker with these boxes? Mind you, my coat is open and my uniform shirt and name tag are still visible. That's stealing. You shouldn't steal boxes from another company. Background. We're literally the only store that wears red shirts for a good 30-minute drive in any direction. Our plaza also plays home to a national grocery chain with Hawaiian shirts, a salon, and 3 women's clothing stores. There used to be a men's suit store, but it closed due to lockdown. I just scoff and say, whatever, and start wheeling the cart to the front. Karen follows me, and as I get to the door, my general manager and the closing manager are walking up from the other side of the store, talking about general manager's upcoming move. I look to the closing cashier and cheerfully say, "See you Monday, Jay." I start out the door, and Karen grabs me and starts screeching about me stealing from the store. I immediately look at her and snarl, "You have 5 seconds to get your hands off of me before I call the police." Then she slaps me. Unbeknownst to everyone except the coworker who was closing my department, the town's chief of police was in the store to pick up his Christmas cards that he had ordered. When he heard her screeching, he turned to see the commotion. He saw the slap. So did my GM, the other manager, the cashier, 3 other customers, and the store security cameras. 10 minutes later, Karen is sitting on the curb in front of the store screaming like a possessed banshee with a new pair of bracelets. There's 2 town police cars and a state police cruiser with their lights flashing in the parking lot. And the stuff the chief found in her purse is on the hood of the car. I'm giving the chief my info, and general manager is telling him to take my statement tomorrow when I'm back on the clock. I'm now waiting for my dinner to arrive from the local pizza joint and Cyberpunk 2077 to finish installing on my PC. Update. Just finished giving my statement to the police. She's being charged with assault, driving on a suspended license, and also had a warrant out for failing to meet with her probation officer. Am I the jerk for putting my ex-wife on the no contact allowed list at my grandmother's group home? I, 35 male, was married to Zoe, 32 female, for 6 years. We got a divorce at the beginning of last year. She had thought I was cheating. I wasn't, and cheated in retaliation. I found out and ended things immediately. We didn't have any kids, and the house was mine, so it was a really quick process. Zoe didn't take the divorce well. She wanted to work on things. I believe that there's no coming back from something like that. She told everyone she knew that I had given up on our marriage and abandoned her. That's just a little background on the situation. My grandmother is an amazing woman who needs round-the-clock care due to her deteriorating mental state. Physically, she's probably healthier than any of us, but she has trouble remembering things, if she took meds, shut off the stove, etc. She lives in a really great group home, and I see her often. After our divorce, Zoe asked if she could keep visiting my grandmother, and I said yes. However, I began to realize that Zoe was using my grandmother as a tool to get back in my good graces. She was giving my grandmother framed photos from our wedding to keep on her bedside. She would tell her stories as if the 2 of us were still married. She would give my grandmother messages to give me. Example, Zoe told me to tell you you're the love of her life, etc. It happened for a short time before I contacted Zoe and told her to stop. It was confusing and frustrating for me and my grandmother when I had to constantly be reminding her that Zoe and I weren't married anymore. Zoe stopped for a while, and the only issue we were having was that she had happened to come to visit my grandmother whenever I would be there. My grandmother has a calendar on her wall where I mark down all the days I'm going to come see her. I'm pretty sure my ex was taking photos of it or something. Recently, I began seriously dating a woman, Claire. On my last Zoom call with my grandmother, she was extremely agitated, and when I asked her why, she said she was extremely upset to hear from Zoe that I was throwing away our relationship to date someone else. I had told my grandmother about her a few weeks ago, and she had been extremely happy for us. I called Zoe and told her she wasn't allowed to visit my grandmother anymore. I called the group home and told them not to accept calls or visits from her. My ex-wife says I'm depriving her of a woman she sees as her own blood. I say that this is the last time I'm going to have her emotionally manipulate my grandmother and upset her for Zoe's own selfish reasons. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you agree with, OP or Zoe? Please let us know. That Zoe sounds like pure evil. Kinda gives me a run for my money. That time a customer tried using my dead uncle as leverage to bargain. This happened a couple of weeks ago, but it still upsets me when I think about it. My place of work is a family business. My grandfather founded our store. My dad and mom bought it from him, and I'm now working the desk along with some of my siblings. My mom and dad didn't originally plan to be the sole owners. However, my uncle also was very involved with the business and wanted to go in on it with them. Unfortunately, about 6 months before the deal was supposed to happen, he unexpectedly suffered a stroke and died while walking his dogs. It was so fast, I never got the chance to say goodbye. He was out less than 2 hours after he went down. He was young too, only 42. I was wrecked emotionally for a long time after that. My parents pulled out of the deal and waited another 7 months past the original date to buy the business, both to heal further and to put things in order. My uncle knew codes to safes, passwords to accounts, all that, and when he went, he took all of that with him, so it was really difficult to track everything down. We now have a memorial photo in the store with his death date and a little message about what he's done for the store. Every so often, a customer who met him once will give us their condolences. While I love my uncle and enjoy the memorial picture, sometimes it really hurts to have someone who barely knew him try to comfort you while you're just trying to work. However, this customer took it a step too far. As soon as she came in, she went to our higher-end product and began to complain that everything was too pricey, that our prices used to be lower. They weren't. Before spotting the memorial photo, she looks towards me and says, "Oh, your uncle used to bargain with me all the time. It's such a shame." Because I'm stupid and try to give people the benefit of the doubt, I assume she's just giving a weird kind of condolence. I don't like talking about him in front of strangers, so I switch topics and direct her towards our lower-end goods that are more in her price range. She gives me a weird look and continues on bemoaning our prices and how Uncle would always make them lower for her. Then out of nowhere, as I'm talking about our mid-range product, she blurts, "Do you not even care?" I turn totally stone-faced, thanks face mask, and as calmly as I can, I say, "Of course I do, but unfortunately I can't do anything about it. I don't and cannot negotiate with you." I'd like to say that I blew up and threw her out of the store, but in the end, she settled on 2 lower-end products, and I processed her orders as quickly as I could to get her out of my face. One thing I did do was simply not inform her on a sale we were having on one of her items. Oops, we'll just call that the $50 dead uncle fee. Would I be the jerk if I told my mom to stop calling my money her money? I'm a 20-year-old man, and while I live at home, I am a full-time student on a full-ride scholarship. Because of how the scholarship is, I can't work too much or else they'll take the scholarship from me. And I'm currently out of a job because 1, lockdown, and 2, my mom is autoimmune, so I can't work a physical job at the moment. I want to add that my mom is sweet and does a lot for me, and I don't want this to turn into dissing her or calling her a bad parent. It's just this money thing that's been rough. So my bank account is linked to hers, so she can add or withdraw money, and she can see every time I spend my money on anything. I also have a savings account, and I'm really good about my money and don't spend nearly anything on myself. I got my stimulus check and split the money 60-40, 60% of my savings, 40% for myself. I also have money in my account from the previous job I worked. She has gifted me money for my birthday and Christmas before, but other than that, I don't ask her for money or anything else. Well, I decided to treat myself since my boyfriend gifted me his old gaming laptop and buy Minecraft on it, $26. Second thing I bought all year, and the first thing I bought was for myself on my birthday. And as it's the holiday season, I commissioned some art for my boyfriend as a surprise, which was $35, $25 for the art and a $10 tip, as I felt like the artist was undercharging and their work is really nice. So in total, I've spent $61 all year, $81 if you want to count my birthday gift. Later that day, I walk into the kitchen and she says, "Why are you spending money?" I was really confused and explained I just bought a game and my boyfriend's Christmas gift. She laughs and says, "All right, but don't go spending more of my money, okay?" I just kind of smiled and mumbled out an "okay" and huddled back into my room. It really irked me, as this isn't the first time she said something along the lines of my money belonging to her. When I worked at a job and spent money, she also said, "Stop spending my money." And when my boyfriend visited last year, she also made a comment on spending so much of her money. My grandma also sends money every Christmas, and my mom has openly said she's taking her cut for my gift from her. Which, like, okay, but ask before you take that. I'm fine sharing, just ask. I don't feel like my stimulus money is hers, you know? And it's not like she didn't get a stimulus check either. I don't want to be a jerk. It really annoys me when she acts entitled to my money. And if she needed the money, she knows all she has to do is ask and I'll help. I'll be an adult bringing it up. Keep calm and cool, but I just want to know if I'd be a jerk for even bringing it up. This happened about a week ago, and I don't know if it's too late to talk about it. Edit. Thank you for all of the responses. I really do appreciate the advice, and shout out to the people who are going through similar situations, and congrats on scholarships. Someone in the comments asked for clarification on a couple things. So, 1. I do not pay rent, but I have offered when I was 18 and when we moved again. My mom has refused both times as long as I keep my scholarships and keep up with school. I also help with yard work, moving things, anything she needs labor-wise whenever she asks. Should have clarified on the account. I'm attached to her account, not her attached to my account. I'm not sure if that changes much in regards to transferring money to a new private account. This joint account was made when I was 16. 3. Some people were worried that she has withdrawn money before. She is not, unless she's explicitly asked. I can also see how much she draws out when she does. Edit 2. I'm sure people will continue commenting on this for a while, but I got the groove. Currently working on setting up my own bank account and practicing what I'm gonna say to my mom. I appreciate the concern and the feedback, and thank y'all very much. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you say anything to your mom about how she's acting or not? Please let us know. My mom tried taking my money once. Last mistake she ever made before her untimely demise. Yes. Don't be a Karen if you don't want to look like a Karen. So I remembered a story of malicious compliance as recounted to me by a good friend of mine. My friend is a hairdresser by trade and works at a very upscale salon. I go to her myself and can attest to her being amazing. Anyway, this salon had one customer who had been passed around from hairdresser to hairdresser, bullying every single new one she saw. This woman was an absolute terror. She made 3, count 'em, 3 separate hairdressers cry. The only reason she was still a client of the salon was that her mom was friends with the owner. She was a relatively young gal, maybe in her mid-20s, with very long bottle blonde hair, past her waist, that she insisted to everyone who wasn't her hairdresser was her natural color. It was very much not. She went to the salon religiously so no one would ever find out her secret shame. She blamed her hairdresser for all of her hair problems, many of which were the results of heavy bleaching and how much heat she used on her hair and her refusal to follow care instructions, and was never satisfied with anything. So everything shuts down in our state, and she screams at my friend to come do her hair for her because she can't have her boyfriend finding out she's not a natural blonde. Anyway, my friend refuses, and despite Karen's threats, she knows that the salon owner knows she's too darn good at her job and has too loyal a customer base to fire her, so she thinks no more of it until a few months later when the salon reopens, and lo and behold, who should appear in the appointment book but Karen? So the day arrives and Karen shows up with her hair dyed jet black, and not very well dyed either. My friend is shocked because Karen's always made such a big deal about being a blonde, and how even though she gets her hair bleached, she really is a natural blonde and just enhancing her hair color a little. My friend asks Karen what they were doing that day, and Karen demands to be made blonde again. My friend is like, okay, that's going to be a process, because this jerk has used black box dye, which is really hard to get out. For those of you who don't know, getting dyed dark hair to blonde is usually something done in stages, so the hair has a chance to recover a bit between bleaching sessions to avoid breakage. Karen is like, no, I am going to be blonde when I leave here today, or I am telling your boss that you see clients at home sometimes and getting you fired. My friend sometimes does friends' hair at home for a lower price because she's a sweetheart, which her boss is fine with. And it's your fault I had to dye my own hair this color because my boyfriend would have seen my roots if I hadn't done something. My friend is tired of Karen's BS at this point, but it's a slow day and she has time. She explains to Karen that if she takes her blonde all in one go, her hair will be fried and she'll likely end up having to lose a lot of length. Karen scoffs and rolls her eyes and is like, that's never happened before, and my hair's so healthy, I'm sure it will be fine if you don't mess it up. Friend recommends at least using Olaplex, a product that helps prevent damage. Karen says she thinks it's a scam to overcharge customers and won't pay for it. Cue malicious compliance. Friend is like, okay, but makes several coworkers be witnesses that this is what Karen is asking for after friend explained the risks. Friend meanwhile has formulated a fiendish scheme. After that, friend goes through the whole process of bleaching Karen's hair. She has to do it like 4 times or something, and she checks with Karen after each one that she's absolutely sure she has to be all the way back to champagne blonde by the end of the day, and recommends stopping at some of the nice auburn or strawberry blonde shades in between for now. But Karen insists her boyfriend hates her hair anything but her natural blonde. My friend knows she will refuse because when has a Karen ever decided at the 11th hour to be reasonable? With each bleaching, there's more breakage, and Karen's hair feels worse. My friend knows Karen's hair won't survive this, but Karen absolutely refuses to let her stop. Eventually, at long last, my friend manages to get Karen's hair to the required level, and so she starts to rinse Karen's hair. It starts breaking off in her hand. The length of her hair is melted, fried, destroyed. My friend gets the bleach out and immediately conditions the ever-loving heck out of it while explaining to Karen that exactly what my friend said would happen has happened. Karen says she must be exaggerating and insists it's fine. Friend wraps what's left of Karen's hair in a towel and takes her back over to the station where she shows Karen the problem. Everything past a little bit beyond her chin length is pretty much gone. Karen shrieks and accuses my friend of everything under the sun. Incompetence, operating without a license. She most definitely has her license. A personal vendetta, etc., etc. My friend eventually calms her down and tells her she'll do her best to cut it so it looks decent for free. She even has the perfect cut in mind. It'll suit Karen perfectly. My friend gives Karen the sharpest, most beautifully cut angled bob you've ever seen. I've seen it thanks to my friend showing me Karen's Insta, that despite the incredible precision and skill showcased, is unequivocally and perfectly the Karen. Blown out and styled to, "Can I speak to your manager?" perfection, Karen starts crying because the cut makes her look 40. She wants to speak to the manager. My friend gets the manager and Karen throws a fit, threatening to sue, and how dare they, and how his employees do this to mock her, and so on and so forth, while my friend stands there looking completely innocent. The boss then asks friend her side of the story, and the other hairdressers back her up and say that the cut is just her trying to make the best of what's left of her hair. Even the boss by now is sick of Karen's BS, and Karen is forced to pay the huge sum of money owed for how much time was spent bleaching her hair, much of which is gone now, and leaves swearing never to come back. Her boyfriend, a cop, calls up later and threatens to assault my friend for doing that to Karen's hair against his wishes, and my friend tells him if he tries anything, she's going to tell his superiors and every news agency in the city. Nothing further happens, but he eventually dumps Karen because he doesn't like girls with short hair. Edit. Unfortunately, Karen's Karen-ness cannot be attributed to her boyfriend's influence. She was like that long before they got together. She had been going to that hair salon since she was a teenager. The older stylists who had been there a while told my friend stories of her antics and had always been a terror. I think this is more a case of birds of a feather than a girl scared into acting unreasonable. Have you ever dyed your hair before? And if so, what color? Please let us know. Craziest color wins a get out of jail free card. Entitled mom insists I change my dog's name to not confuse her son. This is so ridiculous and happened like 10 minutes ago. I couldn't walk home fast enough to get Wi-Fi and share this. Background info. I live in Argentina. I'm an advanced student in English teaching. I have 4 dogs and one of them is named Monkey. Before lockdown was enforced and made mandatory back in March, I used to tutor a kid who was 5 in English. He would be starting English classes at school this year, and his mom, the entitled mom henceforth, had wanted him to have a head start in comparison to the other kids in his class. Entitled mom had said that kid was insecure about starting school and wanted him to feel accomplished and smart by being ahead of his classmates. Weird logic, but okay. She was paying me good money, and the kid actually showed an interest in the language and all the activities I did with him, so tutoring him was actually enjoyable for both of us. When lockdown was enforced, we had to suspend the tutoring sessions because public transport was unavailable and they lived in the other corner of the city. Fast forward to today. I took my dog, Monkey, for a walk today, and we ran into entitled mom and kid at the park, and kid was thrilled to meet one of my dogs at last. I had talked to him about them before and showed him pics. He was very polite and asked what her name was, and how old she was, and if he could pet her, etc. When I told him that my dog's name was Monkey, he was thrilled to let me know that he knew what that word meant because they had learned about different animals in his classes during the year. Entitled mom was less thrilled to know that I had named my dog as another animal. She started questioning me, although it felt more like an interrogation about why would I do that. If I did it just to show off my skills in English, if I was aware it could be confusing, and so on. I asked her what she meant by confusing, thinking that she meant by the gender of the dog. I find it silly that people assume animals' gender by their names, but it happens. But she said, and I'm quoting, "Why would you try to confuse my son by naming a dog as another animal? He's trying hard to learn things in English because you prompted him to, and now whenever he hears the word monkey, he will think of your dog." I tried to explain to her why I had chosen that name for my dog, but she then went on about how I should change the dog's name to something more dog-like, so kids like her son wouldn't feel confused about animals. She was very insistent on names I should call my dog, even telling her son to try calling Monkey other names to see if she responded, and I almost told her I could probably call her entitled mom's name instead, because she's a jerk after all, no confusion there. But I restrained because her kid was there, and I didn't want to deal with her getting all angry at me in public. Kid said he liked Monkey's name because it's unique and suits her because of her curly tail, like a monkey cartoon, and I told him it was actually one of the reasons I had chosen that name for her. Entitled Mom realized there was no win for her in this issue and quickly took her kid and left. Monkey and I actually shared a look for a moment, and I took it as a cue to come home already. Edit to add, someone in the PMs asked me, aside from the curly tail, what other reasons I had to give Monkey that name. To be honest, when I brought her home, I was on a binge for anything Arctic monkeys related for some reason, so there's also that. Also, I'm in love with all the comments sharing silly, funny, interesting pet names that they all know just fit perfectly. Do you have any pets? And if so, what are their names? Please let us know. You think that's bad? I've got a lizard named Cat Dog. Am I the jerk for wanting my son to be the ring bearer at my wedding? I'm male, 29, and my fiance is female, 28, and I are getting married next week. Don't worry, everybody is going to be required to get tested and we will be socially distanced with masks. My son, male, 6, is from a previous relationship and I have 50-50 custody over him. Me and his mom are on friendly terms and she's okay with him going to my wedding. The problem is, my fiance had told her niece, female 9, that she could be the flower girl. When my fiance's nephew, male 8, found out, he became extremely upset and threw a fit. My sister-in-law demanded that her son be a ring bearer or she will not be attending the wedding. My fiance is extremely close to her sister and was upset that she would not be coming to the wedding, so she also became upset and sided with her sister, stating in her words, "This is my wedding and it happens by my terms or not at all." You can imagine how upset I was at that statement. I have a bit of a temper, so I left before this turned into a worse all-out screaming match. I'm unsure on what to do because I want my future wife to be happy at her wedding, but I don't believe excluding my son is a viable option. So Reddit, would I be the jerk if I told my wife that my son is going to be the ring bearer to my wedding no matter what her spoiled sister thinks? Edit, I've offered my sister-in-law to have her son as the second ring bearer, and she essentially laughed in my face and told me, "If you're not going to make sacrifices to be part of our family, then you don't deserve to be marrying my sister." Edit 2. I'm going to have a talk with my fiance tonight to determine if this is something we can move past or if this will be the end of our relationship, because I will make it abundantly clear that my son is the most important thing in my life, and if she does not respect, she will not be the stepmother to my child. For your information, the statement, "This is my wedding and it happens by my terms or not at all," happened during an intense argument between me and her where I also said some questionable things, so I don't want her to be pictured as a completely unreasonable person. She also treats my son well and doesn't treat him or I horribly, as some of you are suggesting. Update. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me. Your answers were insightful and helpful. Now on to the update. I've just finished having a conversation with my fiance. She was extremely distraught and crying as she felt horrible for the way she treated me and my son. She said that I would be better off without her. She said she had just been so stressed from the wedding and work that night she lost it, and she knows that is not an excuse. I explained to her that the way she treated my son was unacceptable and that for me to be confident in our relationship going forward, she needs to be absolutely sure that this would not happen again, and I would like to uninvite her sister from the wedding. The only reason I feel comfortable with this is because she has been nothing but lovely to my kid. She agreed, and now my son is the ring bearer and my best man, thanks to your suggestions, along with my brother. Her sister will not be attending our wedding, and the niece will arrive with my fiance's parents instead. I also had a conversation with my son, without the presence of my girlfriend, to know what he thought about her. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Lexi, my fiance, is super pretty and nice, and she makes really good chicken nuggets." I agree. My fiance and my future in-laws have also decided to go no contact with my future sister-in-law due to what she tried to pull. Again, I would like to thank everyone who responded or DM'd me. Your support means a lot. Well, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have given in to the sister-in-law's demands or not? Please let us know. Hurry up and finish so I can go watch some Bridezilla. I'm really in the mood to binge on it now for some reason. It's past your checkout time and you have to leave. Okay. I work in a production facility that's heavily regulated by FDA rules and regulations. One of them is that anything that deviates from SOP has to be investigated. Strict deadlines have to be met, and although extensions are allowed, it has to be due to unforeseen circumstances. I've worked here for close to 10 years, and I have a unique position that only I do what I do. I do it well and need little if any oversight as long as I meet weekly goals. I also step in to help review investigations and route them in the system for closure when needed. I'm hourly and refuse to work from home since I'm not getting paid for it. Plus, home is family time. I like to track my work through email, so if something unusual is requested of me, I ask people to send me an email so I can make sure to do it. Cast. We've got me, and we've got the new associate supervisor as Jerk. P.S. Not my supervisor, but outranks me. Jerk. It's Friday and past your clock out time. What are you doing here? Me. Helping out a coworker who had to leave on time. Jerk. HR wants us to reduce overtime, and there's no reason why you should be here. Me. Don't worry about it. I'm sure my supervisor will address it if it's a problem. Jerk. You're just running the clock. As a supervisor, I know a lot of things that you guys are not aware of. I think you need to clock out and leave. Me. I'm waiting for an investigation to be signed off so I can close it. Well, your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency. Me. Do me a favor. Send me an email so I can put it on my to-do list. Fine. By the way, you will get nowhere in life if you need simple reminders for things like, go home. Email read something to the effect of, due to recent HR directive, personnel are asked to reduce overtime hours. You are directed to leave within 15 minutes as per our conversation at 5:30 p.m. today. Me. Okay. Cue malicious compliance. I forwarded email to my supervisor and left. I get a frantic call Saturday asking me what the heck I was thinking having an investigation go overdue. I say Jerk told me to leave. Please see email I forwarded you. I get a call back begging me to run in and close the investigation, which literally would have taken me less than 5 minutes, and that includes a quick email check. I say sure, but since rules are rules, I invoke call-in rules. Instead of 1.5 my time, I get double pay for 4 hours minimum. My supervisor was ecstatic that I could go in, that she immediately said yes. Took my family with, had them sit in the car as I popped in, click, click, close, left, and went for a nice family lunch. Jerk got written up, as is the rule for causing an investigation to go overdue, and it directly affected his raise and bonus. Oh, and he never talks to me. That alone is a huge win. What a jerk, right? Am I the jerk for accidentally leaving a pizza box in a friend's flat? So this is an incident that happened about 18 months ago that destroyed a long-term friendship. I've been thinking about it a lot and want to know if I'm the jerk. I played Dungeons & Dragons with my best friend, his wife, and a few other friends. We played in the conference room of a hotel, but sometimes had to play in their flat if the room was booked up. This happened around Christmas of 2018. Their flat was incredibly small, and we struggled to fit everyone in. We ordered pizza, and after I finished, I put my empty box under my seat to keep it out of the way. I accidentally forgot about it. I never had before. Next game night, we played in a storage area instead, which was much bigger and better. However, my friend said that his wife had banned us from playing in the flat because someone had left a pizza box after the last session. This was said in a jovial tone, with a little hint of seriousness, as if it were a joke. I suspected myself, but nothing was directed at me. It was said to the group as a whole. We all laughed about it and then moved on. The pizza box incident was never mentioned again. After this, his wife rarely came to the games. In February of 2019, I got engaged and organized a celebratory meal with friends, including best friend and his wife. I was going to ask best friend if he would be my best man. We heard nothing from them, so I messaged him to ask if they would be coming. Here is the message I got back, word for word with names redacted. We won't be coming. This may come as a shock, but me and my wife have just had a massive argument, and I'm afraid it's over you. Ever since the day you put a pizza box on the floor in our flat and didn't apologize, it's been festering. She feels you have disrespected her, and by doing so, have also disrespected me. It's like you don't even care. It came to a head last week when you barely even acknowledged her. She's given me the ultimatum. It's either you or her. She's all I have left. After all we've been through, I cannot lose her. She isn't coming to the game anymore because she can't stand to be around you. This needs fixing. This was the first time the pizza box had been mentioned in 4 months. I was extremely apologetic, but best friend told me he didn't know how I could fix it. His wife refused to speak to me. I ended up writing a letter of apology. It was as nice and sincere as possible. There was a week of silence. My fiance messaged the wife about it, against my knowledge. She never replied and blocked my fiance. Eventually, best friend said they wouldn't forgive me. The letter of apology and message from my fiance had upset his wife so much she was not sleeping at night. I sent a reply saying, in my eyes, accidentally leaving a pizza box on the floor isn't a huge deal, not enough to cause this drama. I also told him that if it was such a big issue, then someone should have talked to me about it. I said I was walking away from the situation and that he knew where I was if he ever needed me. I haven't heard a word from either of them since. Well, what do you think? Was OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
I think the pizza box was just an excuse. Something much darker and sinister is going on here.
Am I the jerk for saying my life is tougher than my sister's, who is a stay-at-home mom? I, female 28, am unmarried, and my sister, Susan, female 37, is a stay-at-home mom to 4 kids, who are 13, 11, 10, and 7. We stay in different states. She chose to become a stay-at-home mom to her 4 kids voluntarily. My brother-in-law earns very well, and they have quite a comfortable life, if that detail matters. Susan has always complained about how tough her life is, how hard it is to bring up her 4 kids, and has compared it to my easy life. While it has always rubbed me the wrong way, I've never really said anything, because undoubtedly, it really must be hard bringing up 4 kids. Over the past few years, despite my parents, my other sister Lisa, and I living in the same state, Susan has always demanded we go to her place for Christmas because managing the kids is too hard, and being a mom is incredibly difficult. Last year, I even suggested a retreat that would have been equally distant for her and us, but she refused, saying it was just too hard and I wouldn't understand since I don't have kids and am not married. This year, she expects me to make the trip to her place again. Lockdown, anyone? I refused. I may not have 4 kids, but I have an extremely stressful job. I work about 60 hours a week, and I also do not have financial security that she does to even risk taking a few days off and have a significant amount of student debt to pay off. I studied abroad, but am earning in a local currency, so the gap is even harder to bridge. Also, Lisa has some health issues, and therefore, I'm the one who does her grocery shopping and such because it's unsafe for her to venture out now. When Susan demanded Lisa, my parents, and I would have to come to her place again this year for Christmas, not to mention I'll have to drive and pay for fuel, I point blank refused. She screamed at me and told me I'm selfish and that I'd never know the amount of work it takes to be a mother and that it was no surprise no guy wanted to marry me. I also lost my temper and told her it isn't an achievement to give birth to 4 kids, that she doesn't have to worry about paying her rent or being able to afford her next meal, and there are plenty of life struggles that are tougher than having kids. Lisa is on my side, but she's always had a soft spot for me. My parents think I'm a huge jerk disrespecting Susan and are temporarily not speaking to me. So Reddit, I know it's hard to be a mom, but am I the jerk? We'll accept any judgment. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
I wouldn't be going to their house anyway. Susan sounds like quite the Karen.
Karen dumps cookies on the floor, gets forced to clean up after herself. The grocery store I work at instituted a policy that lets us stay open an hour later for medical professionals and emergency services. You know, nurses and the people who respond to 911 calls. We close to the general public at 9, and from 9 to 10 is supposed to be a time for the aforementioned people to come in and shop unobstructed. Also thought I'd mention that we open an hour early for senior citizens. Unfortunately, Karen had her own interpretation of this policy. We've got me. We've got entitled mom, Karen, typical haircut, mid-30s. We've got the manager, 6'5", easily 300 pounds, West African immigrant, not the type of guy you want to mess around with. It was 9:45 p.m., 15 minutes until close, and I was restocking eggs when entitled mom pushed her cart, filled to the brim with groceries. Her newborn baby was sitting in a car seat in the front of the cart. Entitled mom.
Ahem.
Me. Hello, ma'am. How can I help you?
Where are the cookies?
They're in aisle 12. Would you like me to take you to them? Yes, that would be good. Since aisle 12 is pretty far from the eggs, I decided to make some small talk, since we were trained to do that. Me. I think it's really great what you guys do for society. Entitled mom.
Thanks.
So, you are a nurse? Oh no, I'm a mom. Moms are the most essential workers, wouldn't you think? We weren't allowed to call people out for not being an EMT or something, so I agreed. We got to aisle 12, and she started taking cookies down from the shelf and putting them in her cart. As she was walking away from the shelf, she bumped it with her cart, and the entire shelf of cookies fell down. I had spent an entire hour leveling that shelf, and now all of my efforts were gone. And instead of apologizing and helping clean up, she said, "Oops, I'd help, but I have to get going. My kids are waiting at home," and just walked away. Just to clarify, the shelf itself didn't fall down, but all the cookies did. I knelt in front of the pile of cookies, defeated. I started putting the cookies back up as her cart squeaked away. I would have gone after her, but my store is very committed to the whole "the customer is always right" thing. I started putting the cookies back up, which would honestly take another hour and a half because of the sheer amount of cookies on the floor. About 15 minutes in, my manager comes by and freaks out about the cookies, but then he realizes, TFLJ Martis wouldn't just knock down all the cookies, right? So he asked me, what happened? Me, some lady bumped her cart into the shelf and everything fell down. Manager, what? Me, yeah, so I'm cleaning it up. Don't worry, I'll be fast. Manager, oh heck no. Where did she go? Me, down the aisle. He took off, like sprinting. I didn't follow him because I wanted to finish the cookies before my shift ended. So the following interaction is secondhand from one of the cashiers. He managed to catch her going out the doors with her cart full of groceries. This was about 10:05 now, past close. Manager, hey you. Yes? My stalker tells me you made a mess in my cookie aisle. Why? I don't know what you mean. I wasn't even in the cookie aisle. Manager, I can see the cookies in your cart. I'm sorry? I need to go. I'm an essential worker. Manager, what kind of worker? A mom. Manager, my mother, back in Nigeria, she worked 12 hours a day after my father passed, and she still had time afterwards to clean up her messes. Entitled mom, no really, I have to go. Manager, go clean up the cookies. But who will watch my baby and my groceries? You can bring it with you, so your baby can learn how to take care of his own messes. Entitled mom reluctantly goes with manager and comes over to the cookie aisle where I'm still slaving away. Manager, TFLJ Martis, get up. Me, okay? Manager, turning to entitled mom, now clean up the mess. It took her until about 10:45, but it would have been a lot longer if manager hadn't felt sorry for her, and so he and I started helping her. At the end, she apologized to me and manager, and she actually paid for some of the broken packages. We helped her take her groceries to her car, where she apologized profusely again. I'm happy there was actually a good ending to this, and Karen ended up learning her lesson and apologized. I just wish it was like this for every Karen. Am I the jerk for not buying a 10% engagement ring? My partner and I have been talking about getting engaged for the last year or so. I have quite a good job, so I could easily afford an expensive engagement ring, and if I was following the 10% rule, then I should spend around $10,000 to $15,000 on the ring. However, my parents, sister, and nephew have all been sick this year, so I was financially supporting all of them for a while. My sister lost her job, so I'm still supporting her a bit, and my job has announced that they will be laying off around 150 people next year. And while I feel confident that I'm not one of them, I don't want to guarantee it either. So long story short, I spent about $3,000 on a nice little white gold ring with diamonds and a sapphire, her birthstone. Initially, she was very happy with it until her mother, a jeweler, called it cheap. She has since given it back to me and accused me of undervaluing her and what she does for me. She's a stay-at-home mom to our 18-month-old and does the majority of the cooking and cleaning because I work long hours. I feel like crap, to be honest. She's refusing to talk to me. Her parents are accusing me of using her and treating her like cheap trash. I've tried to explain my point of view, but they won't listen and are demanding on at least 10% ring. Am I the jerk for the ring I bought? Edited to add that while her mom is a jeweler by trade and training, she's no longer working in the industry due to an issue with her wrists, carpal tunnel or something. I'm not 100% sure. So she wasn't in a position to help with the ring. Edit. I've answered this several times in the comments, so might as well put it in here too. Their concerns aren't based on any form of concern about financial insecurity, as I pay her to be a stay-at-home mom. She gets $450 a week to spend however she likes or save. I happen to know that she has over $40,000 in her personal savings account. This was my idea after the birth of our son when she suggested going back to work. I didn't think it would be a good idea. Her old job paid her $350 a week for full-time work. Full-time childcare and house cleaners would cost around $300 to $400 depending on the time of the year. To me, it made more sense for her to stay at home and bond with our son than to spend the equivalent of her income on childcare and cleaning. I did discuss ring styles with my partner before buying the ring. She wanted a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, like Princess Diana's ring. I also noticed that she preferred pear-cut stones, so I had a sapphire custom cut into a pear shape and placed into a diamond halo on a white gold band. There's little to no chance that I was overcharged because it was done in conjunction with two jewelers and I had it independently appraised for insurance reasons afterwards. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
You sure you want to marry her, buddy boy? Sounds like those in-laws are going to control your marriage for the rest of your life.
Karen goes to a tattoo shop. Maybe 10 years ago, I owned a tattoo shop that was located next door, same strip mall, to a piercing shop. I had gone next door to watch the lobby for the piercer while they had ran and grabbed some change. So Karen walks in, and I get why she thinks I work there. I'm sitting behind the counter. Karen,
I was here last week, and you messed up my piercing. It's infected now, and I need you to fix it.
me, I don't work here. I'm just…
No, it was you. I remember your tattoos. Look.
She proceeds to show me her navel piercing, swollen over the cheap, crappy jewelry, obviously not from the upscale shop where I was currently at, and covered in yellow crust. Me, the piercer will be right back. He just went…
No, you. You messed it up, and now you're going to fix it. I'm not dealing with anyone else. They shouldn't have to fix your mistakes.
Me, I don't work here. I haven't done a piercing in years. I'm sure the piercer will be happy to…
Are you calling me a liar? I remember you. I don't want some guy touching me.
Mind you, the only piercers who worked there at the time were men.
You need to help me, or I'm going to have to go to the hospital and have this thing surgically removed, and then I will have to sue you for my medical bills.
Me, since I'm not a piercer, and I don't know for sure, but that thing looks pretty gross, maybe you should go to the hospital and get it checked out. Karen,
I'm not going to the hospital. You're going to fix it. You messed it up. I need this fixed today.
Me, okay, fill out this form and we will see what can be done. I was tired of dealing with her. I just wanted her to stop talking. The piercing shop had a long release form that everyone had to fill out, so I gave her one of those to keep her busy till the piercer returned. While she was working on the form, the piercer returned. I explained that she was upset and had an issue with her navel, and then snuck out the back door to return to my much quieter tattoo shop. Maybe 10 minutes pass, and guess who walks into my shop? Karen.
I want to get a tattoo done today.
This lady acted like she had never met me before. No mention of me being in the other shop or anything. Me. I'm sorry, I'm busy today. We are booked out for several months and not able to take any new clients for a while. Karen.
I want…
Proceeds to describe a fairly large and detailed tattoo. I can't recall of what.
I know how much tattoos cost, so I don't intend to overpay.
Me. There's no way I can tattoo you today, and I'm about to clock up for lunch. Karen goes through the gate that separates the lobby from the tattoo station, sits down on my massage table, and holds out $40.
How long do you think this will take? Can I use your phone? I have to call my husband and tell him when I'll be home.
Me, in a kind of stern voice. I'm super non-confrontational, so this was weird for me. Ma'am, you have to leave. You're not getting tattooed here today. I'm not taking new clients, and you've been kind of rude both here and next door, and I just plain don't want your business. Karen.
Here.
Holds out $40 again.
You're not busy now, so I don't see what the problem is. How do you even stay open if you refuse to tattoo anyone? Here.
Again with the $40. Me, kind of angry at this point. We tattoo plenty of people. I just won't be tattooing you. You're demanding a $400 tattoo for $40 when I'm already booked and you were rude to me next door. Please take your stuff. She had emptied her purse on the table to show pics similar to the tattoo she wanted and leave. I'm trying to get lunch before my next appointment. Karen.
I don't mind waiting.
Me, totally annoyed and kind of rude. I'm not tattooing you now or ever. Get your crap and get out of my shop and don't ever come in here again. At this point, I picked up her tattoo reference photos and shoved them back in her purse to hand to her. Karen switched to full-blown banshee.
What the heck are you doing? Give me my purse. You're trying to rob me. Give me my money back or I'll call the police.
She carried on a bit more, but I can't recall what she said. So I walked to the door, opened it, and threw her purse outside. Me. Call whoever the heck you want, but you need to leave now. She practically leaped for the door, continuing to scream about her purse, the contents of which had spilled from me tossing it, and on her way out, she pushed me hard enough that I cut my shoulder on the corner of a vending machine in the lobby. I locked the door behind her, gathered my things, and left on foot out the back to get lunch at the bar a couple doors down. While I was at lunch, I was there for over an hour working on stuff on my laptop, I got a notification that someone had left a review. Guess who? It was the most insane and confusing review I ever read. My favorite parts were that I had secretly disclosed having hepatitis to her and that her nephew was going to do an apprenticeship with us, but wouldn't after how she was treated. The rest of it was crazy, saying my shop was dirty, I'm an addict, etc. So I flagged it with Google and figured that was the end of that. My shop had a little enclosed patio at the front entrance with seating and a smoking area for clients, as well as a bunch of potted plants and decorations. When I returned, I found all but one of my pots broken. Dirt and plants everywhere, a bench thrown halfway over the fence, the Christmas lights had been torn down, my gate had been kicked or pushed so hard it was sitting crooked on the hinges. My small window had been broken, one of the letters torn off of my tattoos sign, and my car was keyed. My car had a huge sticker for my shop, and my plate was tattoo related, so it was obvious who to target. Not a little bit keyed either. This jerk went crazy while keying my car. There was so much damage, I couldn't believe she had been able to do it in the hour or so that I'd been gone. I was super bummed. No one had seen it happening because the strip mall door/parking lot configuration was kind of weird. So I started crying. I was so bummed about my shop and the car and all of it. I'm really low key and I get stressed easy, and this was too much. I then called the police, canceled my next appointment, and went next door to visit while I waited for the cops. I found out the lady had been crazy rude to the piercer as well, and that he wound up kicking her out as well. She wanted him to replace the crap jewelry she had gotten it pierced with at another shop for a $150 barbell for free, and became irate when he refused. So irate that she pushed all the flyers from the flyer tables onto the ground as she left while yelling at him. So the cops showed up and took a report. It takes me a while to fill everything out, and he took a photo of the cut I got from being pushed, and we showed him the video of her trashing the place. It didn't catch all of it, but enough. The cop was telling me that the report was pretty much just for insurance because we don't know who she is or how to find her when I remembered the release form. Part of their release form process was to take a photocopy of client ID cards on the form. They have a laminated form you just copy with the ID, so it's all on one page. So that's what I'd done when I was trying to shut her up. We dug the release form out of the trash, and the cops then had her full name, recent address, which she had written in because it was different than her ID card, phone number, etc. She lived not even a half a mile from the shop. So the cops drove to her house and arrested her. She got in trouble for all of it. By the time it was over, she had to serve several months in jail, and I assume a long time on probation, and I bet she had to attend classes. Just a guess. I don't know. I got a notification several months later letting me know she had gotten out of jail, and I remember thinking, darn, she was in there a while. The following day, her husband called me to find out what the damages were so he could cover the costs. By the time I added it up, it was close to $5,000. I was kind of a jerk, and I taxed the heck out of them and quoted him as though I had paid people top dollar to fix all of the stuff I actually fixed myself, like replace and set up the plants, the fence, etc. He brought an envelope of cash in the day after I told him the cost, or it may have been that evening. It was weird. He was a nice acting, seemingly normal guy. He apologized and said she has a temper. This means this Karen could have afforded the jewelry she was trying to get for free and the tattoo she was trying to get for cheap. I assume anyways. Seems like he just had the money laying around since he came up with it so fast. But don't worry, none of this stopped Karen. After she got out of jail, for about a year, my shop would get these random super weird reviews from random Gmail accounts that had no other reviews. I had no proof it was her, but we never got bad reviews till this happened, and they were all written in the same way. They all just sounded like the same person wrote them. Some of my favorite highlights from the reviews: that we reuse needles, that we did a misspelt tattoo, that we allow and had dogs in the shop, that we got shut down by the health department. There was plenty of other stuff, and it was all pretty far out. That's just all I can remember. This lady would write paragraphs of weird stuff every time, just rambling lunacy. I was in business for over 15 years. That was the only Karen I ever remember having to deal with. I'm sure there were a few other rude customers, but nothing like that. I wonder if she ever realized that she provided us the information that made it super easy to track her down right after. Edit. Does anyone else feel kind of bad for Karens? Like, it must be kind of hard to live a life where you're always tripping out. Speaking of tattoos, have you ever gotten a tattoo? And if not, would you? Please let us know.
I've got a tattoo on my lower back that says re.
Am I the jerk for ruining my ex's reputation? She, 25, cheated. I, 26, learned about it in September. But she was pregnant at the time already. I said, fine, I break up, but I want to see my daughter. Well, last week, her parents, her brother, and I were at the hospital to see her giving birth to a dark-skinned girl. I'm Russian, she is Japanese. I left the same moment I saw the baby. Her parents were mad at both of us. Her older brother threatened me if I break her heart now. So my ex posted a picture of her and her daughter, marked me, and said, Look at this jewel, so beautiful, and yet her father left us for an old-timer. Yes, my current girlfriend is 38, and who cares? I love her, and she kind of got pregnant in November. I simply replied with, every colorblind person can see that this child isn't mine. She took the post down an hour later, but her comments exploded, and so did my DMs. Around 230 of her followers wrote me if it's true that I am not her father. Well, duh. I posted a DNA test that proved that the child is not mine and wrote below the post, God bless my luck. I was referring to the fact that I don't have to raise a stranger's child. And the second slide was a picture of me and my girlfriend standing next to each other with my hand on her stomach. Well, she lost around 50% of her followers and dozens of friends. As of right now, I know that she's being harassed online and deleted her entire account. Facebook account was deleted, and she even deleted her WhatsApp account. This happened in a span of, 8 hours? I'm quite satisfied about the post that I made, and me and my current girlfriend are watching Brooklyn 99 while laughing at screenshots of her comment section that my friends sent me. So, am I the jerk for ruining my ex-girlfriend's reputation? Those who harassed me because of the post from my ex also harassed my girlfriend. I'm glad they apologized though and left us alone. Edit. Thanks for the awards, but don't waste them on my post. There must be 100 posts in your feed that deserve it more than mine. All I did was play the reverse card on my ex. Edit 2. For those thinking, why does this guy already have a new girlfriend and all that? I have extreme fear of being alone. I lost my father 6 years ago, and with him my older sister. My mom passed 2.5 years ago and left me and my little brother, who was 16 at the time, alone. No relatives here, and I had to take care of him. I had extreme fear of losing him and staying alone. The only crutch for this fear was my ex, and after we broke up, I became anxious again and went back into dating very fast. Thinking about it now, it was the best idea, while not the best thing to do. Also, helpful awards make me feel like there are others out there that are in the same position but can't cope with it like I did. You guys and girls didn't deserve such things. No one deserves being cheated on, and I know that you feel like crap for a certain time and that your confidence is at the ground. For some, it takes hours. For some, it takes months to accept the fact that your partner cheated on you because you were too good for him or her. You are loved and wanted, just that this person knew that you were way above them and they couldn't cope with that. Am I the jerk for accepting my dad's apology gift on behalf of both me and my wife? This year, we had a Zoom Thanksgiving with my family. My brother, 49, and his wife, who's 26, and my dad, who's 71, and my stepmom, who's 40. My dad has always been protective of me and my brother and speaks out if he feels either of us are being treated badly by others. My wife, who's 46, had a hysterectomy 2 years ago because after giving birth to our fourth child, doctors said she had endometriosis. After her hysterectomy, her personality completely changed. She was no longer as happy-go-lucky as she used to be, would spend hours laying in bed, and would refuse to dress up for social events or buy new clothes, period, because she said she could break out into sweats at any moment and soak her entire outfit. I understand her problems, and I never fault her for anything she says or does. However, my dad has expressed that he was uncomfortable about how snappy my wife has been to me, and that she always looks like she's been dragged to social events we attend against her will. Underdressed, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes. During our Thanksgiving dinner, my brother, who's 49, and his wife of 3 years, who is 26, were talking about a new construction project he was overseeing and I was consulting on. His wife was extremely excited and pumping him up about how he will employ so many people during what's going on and that he never fails to amaze in his results. My dad asked my wife what she thought, and when she gave a non-committal response, they got into an argument. My dad called my wife a wet blanket who didn't support anything I did, and my wife called him a jerk who left my mom alone and destitute. My dad said that I could do so much better and that my wife should be more like my brother's wife, who is always dressed to the nines and is very physically affectionate with him in public, who he said was always put together, happy, and supportive, to which my wife replied that he probably has never tolerated a woman during menopause, but he acts worse than any menopausal woman. I ended the Zoom call after he said, "She should at least try harder to keep you." I was very angry, but it's been a while and my dad has been texting me about how sorry he was and that he was drunk. I thought that my wife had cooled off as well. Yesterday, a package arrived, and inside was a sorry note from my dad. He had gifted me a new watch and a coffee machine he wanted to get for our family. I bought the gifts inside and ended up texting him and my stepmom in the family group chat. I simply said thanks for the gifts from our family. My wife was furious that I accepted gifts from my father and even angrier when I showed her the note. She said she does not accept the apology and that she doesn't want the gifts. I told her I didn't really know what the big deal was because families give each other gifts, and he's still my father, and she herself said she was going to have to talk to him eventually. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for proving to my little brother there's nothing scary in the basement, and now my parents are mad that they can't use that as a punishment? I, 19, male, moved back in with my parents a few weeks ago while I'm waiting to move to a new apartment next month. I have a 7-year-old brother, AJ, and we're really close. He's happy that I'm staying here again for a bit. My parents moved into a new house last year that comes with a basement. AJ is scared of it because he thinks there's a monster there. He won't even go near the door. Since I've been here, I noticed whenever my brother does something, my parents say they're gonna lock him in the basement. Not for real, if he doesn't behave and that it gets him to stop. To be honest, I didn't think that was fair because AJ was really terrified and would actually cry if they even mentioned doing that. But they kept doing it because he'd start to behave. He's not a bad kid, by the way, just a kid who acts like any other kid sometimes and acts up. Last week, I tried to get him to see that there's nothing scary so he can get over that fear. I told him if I'm wrong, I'll give him my PS5, so he was interested after that. I went down there by myself first and turned on the lights. When he saw I was okay, he slowly went down. Took maybe 10 minutes for him to go down the stairs. He was still really scared, but I said it's okay. Nothing was gonna happen, and even if there was a monster, my parents wouldn't have bought the house, cause then they'd be the ones having to take care of it, clean up all the hairs, pay for the vet if it ever got sick, etc. That made sense to him, I guess. We just looked around, and then he was relaxed, so we watched some videos on my phone down there and ate. He pretty much wasn't scared anymore, and when my parents got home, he made them watch him go downstairs by himself. They didn't say anything in front of him, but they were upset when we were alone. Which, okay, yeah, I guess makes sense. They can't use that as punishment, but didn't expect them to be mad that AJ wasn't scared of something anymore. My dad said I didn't have a right to interfere with their parenting and I crossed some lines or whatever. I don't know if this is something they should really be this mad over, and now my mom is being super short with me. It feels like I did do something wrong now. Like, yeah, my parents sort of used to be the same with me as a kid, telling me they're gonna leave me with that guy over there if I don't stop crying at the store. So I feel like maybe I did ruin that for them. But also, it didn't feel right to let AJ keep being scared like that of something in the house. A little bit conflicted here on how I did things. Was I the jerk for, I guess, taking away the punishment they use and crossing a line in their parenting? Well, what do you think? Was it wrong of OP to tell their little brother the truth about the basement or not? Please let us know. I wish we had a basement so I could lock you down there, Reddit boy. Am I the jerk for not punishing my stepson for what he said to my daughter? I, 45, male, and my ex split 8 years ago. I met my current wife during our divorce and married her pretty quickly after it was finalized. I now live with my wife, 41, female, and my stepson, 16, male, and while my ex offered 50-50 custody of our daughter, 15, I felt it better she stay with her mother so I could adjust to life with my new wife and stepson. So she came every other weekend before lockdown. She's been with her mom since March. Here's where the issue comes in. My stepson feels threatened by my daughter when she's here. I'm the only father figure he's ever had, and he doesn't like sharing my attention, so he's often quite rude and mean to her. We normally just assure her it's because he's insecure. My stepson came home yesterday cheerfully saying that my daughter said she'd never come here again. I called my daughter to ask why she'd say that. According to her, my stepson has been saying since school resumed that I picked him over her and that I hated her coming to visit and how everyone was so happy these months she didn't visit. No one wanted her there and she needed to just stay away from us. He denied it, of course, but my daughter's friend filmed it at some point. Gotta love the age of smartphones, and sent it to me. When confronted, he got watery-eyed and said he was just afraid of losing me. I told my daughter that I obviously didn't feel that way and he just felt threatened by her presence. She asked if I was going to actually do something about his behavior this time or if I was just going to brush it under the rug like I always did. I told her I didn't brush anything under the rug, but I wasn't going to punish him for being insecure about losing his father figure. She told me she was tired of his daddy issues being an excuse to treat her like crap, and since I wouldn't stand up for her, she wouldn't be visiting again. I tried to talk to my ex about it, but she said I picked him over her repeatedly and never stood up for her when he treated her poorly, so I don't get to play the victim now that she's fed up with it. I think they're both being overly sensitive here, and my daughter needs to get over it and visit again. But my brother said I let my stepson boost my ego and failed my daughter by not standing up for her. My nephew suggested I post here. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk or not? Please let us know.
More like the worst father that ever existed, if we can even call him a father.
Am I the jerk for requesting money back from a single mom? I, 22, female, lost my job and house due to what's going on. I live in a small town, so I haven't found anything stable for months. I drive for an RS to afford essentials. I'm completely drained and depressed. This year has been so awful for people here, and it's a lot, mentally, to see so much hardship. My mom, 50, and her husband, who's 62, live in the same town. I cannot stay there because her husband despises me for being non-religious. My dad has never been in the picture. They live in a very nice part of town, and I am not a good look for them. My mom does let me receive my mail there, but that was a big mistake. This year, my town did a free Xmas raffle where 10 people would win a $250 prepaid card. They announced the winners on Facebook, and I was actually one of them. I literally couldn't believe it. I knew I could make that money last a while and felt such relief. I called my mom to let her know I won. The card was being sent to her house and to call me when it gets there. She agreed, and that was that. A week goes by, and I realized that it would have been delivered by now, so I call her for 2 days with no answer. I decided to just go to her house to see if it arrived. She answered the door, and I asked her if the card was delivered. She goes on to explain it was delivered 4 days ago. However, when she was grabbing the mail, the neighbor, her friend, was checking her mail as well. While talking, her neighbor started on about how her ex-husband isn't sending as much child support right now, and that her kids aren't going to have the Xmas they're used to. My mother then proceeded to open my mail and give her the $250 gift card. She told her that I had won it, and despite my situation, which the neighbor is fully aware of, I wouldn't mind giving it to a single mom for Christmas. This neighbor has money, a nice house, a well-paying job, and she accepted it. I saw red. With tears in my eyes, I yelled at my mom, then ran outside and went to the neighbor's house. I knocked on her door, still crying, and she answered. I begged her for the card back. She told me she had already spent it on Christmas presents and that I was completely rude and selfish for trying to take back something that was gifted to her. I said it wasn't my mom's to give away in the first place, that she knows my situation. How could she be so heartless? She laughs, then says, "This year has been tough on everyone. Why do you think you're so special and deserving?" She slammed the door in my face. I ran to my car and left. The neighbor told my mom, and she is furious with me. Non-stop messages from family saying I'm disgusting for asking a single mother to give the money back. I haven't responded to anyone, but I know how angry I was, and I am doubting my judgment. I understand why my mom is sympathetic. She was a single mother for a long time as well. Everyone wants me to go back and apologize. I want to find out if I was cruel before saying anything at all. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you agree with, OP or her mom? Please let us know.
She needs to call the cops on her mom. What that mom did was wrong on so many levels.
Am I the jerk for telling my wife that while I backed her decision, I resent that we live in an apartment and my siblings have nice houses? I've been married for 5 years, so this happened a while ago, but we're still dealing with the effects. My parents are pretty rich and like to help their kids, with strings attached. I'm the youngest of 3, and they paid for both of my siblings' weddings and bought them houses. And I don't mean the down payment, they bought them outright. When I got engaged, they offered to do the same, and we were ecstatic. Now, according to wedding tradition, the bride's mother gets first choice of what color to wear. I'm not sure how much people follow that anymore, but my wife and mother-in-law thought it was important. I do feel like since my mom paid for the wedding, maybe she should have gotten first pick, or they could have worn the same color, because who really cares? My mom and mother-in-law ended up wanting the same color. My wife stood by that her mom gets to pick first, and my mom threw a tantrum and said she wasn't coming. She did back down on that, but my dad said he would not be buying us a house because we were disrespectful, and he complained about not being able to get his money back for the wedding. My dad did give us the choice to have mother-in-law change her dress color and still get a house, but my wife stood firm and I supported her because I wanted to start the marriage as a united front. My parents acted like jerks at the wedding and sulked the entire time. Now, I'm not going to excuse it, but my mom has literally never been told before, or at least never had anyone hold firm on the no if she screamed and cried. My grandfather was the type of parent who would fire nannies for disciplining her, and he created a monster. My dad loves to enable said monster. I do think her behavior sucked, but to me it wasn't worth losing a house over. My wife and I are talking about trying for our first kid, though she knows I would like to be in a house by the time they are born, and we don't know if that's going to happen. I told her that honestly, she made the wrong decision, and I resent that we have to live with it. My mom acted like a drama queen, but she did pay for the wedding, and I wish we let her wear the dress, because I hate living in an apartment while my siblings have gorgeous houses. My wife got mad and said that I should be apologetic to her because they are my parents and that I should have kept that to myself. Well, who do you agree with, OP or his wife? Please let us know.
Tell that mom of yours that Mr. Reddit and I are having a second wedding soon. She can come and wear whatever color she wants, as long as she buys us a new house.
Karen threatens to call the HOA on us. Just a bit of info. I live in a smallish neighborhood. There are several trail systems nearby. Some of them are marked trails, others are glorified footpaths. I ride a mountain bike with friends on them because I'm too lazy to drive to an actual park, but they aren't too shabby. The usual cast of me, my friend, an entitled lady, and her son or husband. Friend and I are riding our bikes around our community, taking the occasional trail or going down stair sets. Nothing too interesting, but that sort of sums up me. We're getting ready to turn onto one of the larger trails when entitled guy walks out of his garage. We didn't really know the guy, but I knew his mom or wife was a jerk. I might post that story. As we're turning into the trail, he yells out, "That's not a bike trail!" This was one of the trails that was marked, but it wasn't marked as a designated bike trail. Friend points out that it doesn't say not to ride a bike on it, and Jerk cuts him off with, "Shut it, jerk!" That was just the first part. After that happened, we just started avoiding that area, but we were bound to go back there because the trail is pretty fun. Fast forward to today. Friend and I are back at the trail. We actually went down and nothing bad happened. While we were coming back up the trail, it ends near a railroad and there isn't any other way to get back. We see entitled mom sitting on the patio behind Jerk's house. As we're walking by, she starts yelling,
"Hey boys, you aren't supposed to ride bikes back here."
Friend calls back, "Where does it say that?" There's a pause and she says,
"A trail sign says there aren't any bikes."
It doesn't. I try to explain to her that the sign says, "Use trails at your own risk," but nothing about mountain bikes, and she cuts me off.
"Don't disrespect your elders."
She then tries to tell us that the trail is private property, even though the sign clearly states that it's for the public. I sort of laugh and say to my friend, "Let's just go. This Karen isn't worth the argument." I said this almost under my breath, but apparently she has wizard ears.
"What did you call me? Karen? I know the president of the HOA, and I will report you."
I tell friend to leave, and we hightail it out of there. I will update if anything else happens. Give my kid your PS5, or you've ruined his Christmas. So the other day, I, 30 male, got lucky and managed to get hold of a PS5, which are like gold dust in the UK at the moment. Work has been ridiculous this year, and my PS4 broke a few months back. To say I'm hyped for it and some holiday downtime is an understatement. The console finally arrived the other day and was left with my neighbor. I knocked on the door, thanked them for taking the parcel, and exchanged some pleasantries. When she casually asked if it was anything nice, I told her it was a PS5. We had the usual small talk, and I went back inside, thinking nothing of it. Later, we had a knock on the door from her husband, who's about 38. He said his wife had mentioned I'd gotten a PS5 and they wanted one for their 7-year-old son. It was all his son wanted this year, and it's been a tough year for his son as he's not been able to see his friends much. So, would I consider selling it to them for what I bought it for? I said I understood, but I really didn't want to sell it as I was looking forward to playing it. That's when things got a bit weird. He huffed a little and said Christmas should be about kids, and I should really consider how hard it's been for them, and offered me an extra £50. I said I wouldn't be selling it for any price. I wasn't looking to make money on it, I just really wanted to play it. He left, but said he hoped I'd reconsider as, "You and I are a bit old for video games anyway," and walked off. End of story, I thought. The next day, he comes over again, this time with his son. He said his son really wanted to see the PS5 he had heard about. The boy then said to me that's what he really wanted for Christmas and hoped Santa would get him one. I replied that hopefully he would, but it's really busy for him this year, so he might have to wait a little longer for it. But if not, I'm sure he'd get something nice instead. Another day passes, and my fiance said they had posted something weird on social media about, there's a neighborhood group, how they had thought 2020 would have made people less selfish and more giving. But they were disappointed in their neighborhood, which had forgotten community spirit, and how people should be more thoughtful towards the kids in the streets, given how much they've all suffered this year. Off the back of it, my fiance asked if I should sell them the console just to keep the peace. Later in the day, they came around again to tell me that I had promised their son he'd be getting a PS5 for Christmas, and now it would be ruined if he didn't get one. She said that I am an adult and should be thinking of kids at Christmas, not acting like one playing video games, and that I was being unbelievably selfish and cruel. He added that he didn't know why we could enjoy Christmas knowing we were horrible people that had ruined a 7-year-old's Christmas. Now, I've also heard from some people on the street that they've been talking crap about us to people, though most neighbors are just staying out of it, but we're definitely getting some daggers from the mums who lunch crew. We live in a super nice neighborhood, but it's firmly middle class, lots of private school kids called Hattie and Sebastian, etc. We're definitely the youngest on the street and the weird childless couple, which I don't think PS5 Gate is helping with. My fiance just wants to sell it to them to end it, but I'm still trying to hold firm. Honestly, I feel like I'm losing my mind at this point. Well, what do you think? Should OP sell them the PS5 or not? Please let us know.
Never give in to a Karen. Once you do, we own you. Just ask Reddit boy over here. Yes.
Entitled Grandma claims inheritance, which could have ruined me and my siblings' future. A little context. My family is a pretty well-off family. My mom and dad had garner money and land for their business and are able to send me and my 2 siblings to a local international school. The majority of the land they bought was in my mother's name because of a stupid reason totally unrelated to the story. Remember this point. My mom, however, passed away before I could even finish high school 5 years ago, but to this day, I'm still affected by that event. Before she passed, Dad felt that something around the conflict regarding inheritance would occur, so he tries to clear everything, even visiting the land registry every day for a whole month and transferring the inheritance into the name of him, me, and my siblings. Now, as you all will probably know, when there's a lot of inheritance involved, your fam's about to get busy. Enter Entitled Grandma, my deceased mom's mother. There weren't really any issues to begin with. My dad promised to let Entitled Grandma stay in the home he and my mom built. The home was registered in my dad's name. He even provided her a monthly payment of approximately $650. Might not sound like much, but in my country, it was enough to live comfortably, considering she isn't responsible for rent and other bills. Everything, apart from some minor stupid inheritance claims here and there, seems fine for about 3 years. The 4th year is when it goes down. Around that time, I was doing a master's degree in the UK, which I recently just graduated at the time of this post. My sister's doing an undergraduate in Australia, and my younger brother is about to graduate high school. As it's always been, both my parents' goal to send us abroad for education, you can pretty much guess the financial burden my dad has now. Entitled Grandma, however, decides that it's none of her concern and decides to sue. Apparently, according to the lawsuit document, she is entitled to all the land that is registered in my mom's name prior to her signing it off. The house my dad is letting her live in, along with other stuff worth over millions in US dollars. You might be thinking, what the heck? But didn't your mom sign the inheritance document? This is where it gets more messed up. Despite my dad sending my mom to be treated in one of the best and most expensive private hospitals in the country and splurging nearly $1 million US in medical treatment, Entitled Grandma still claims,
"This person has attempted to indirectly hurt my daughter and intends to hog all the inheritance to himself."
These included blurting out excuses like
tricking her during a not fully conscious state, feeding her unsanitary green water during her homestay period,
or even
intentionally instructing the doctors to not fully treat my daughter.
What makes my blood boil even more was that Entitled Grandma did not care about the fact that me and my siblings, her grandkids, are still financially dependent on my dad for our education and livelihood, and wanted my dad put in jail on the charges of inheritance scam. The details of the lawsuit and stuff is complicated, but just to give you a summary, my dad has upper hand, albeit few loopholes exist, as all the documents had been signed, and the patient documents did not support any of her stupid claims. He, however, decided to settle the lawsuit in court by saying that he will pay Entitled Grandma $500,000 US in cash, allowing her to stay in that home for the rest of her life and allowing her to collect rent on one of my dad's small condos for the rest of her life also. This is on the condition that Entitled Grandma cut all family ties with us and never bring the issue of inheritance to court ever again. When I asked my dad why he decided to settle by giving Entitled Grandma money, even though Entitled Grandma filed a lawsuit against him without regards to his financial burden and him still having the upper hand, he simply just uttered, "Your mom loved Entitled Grandma very much, and I promised her I would never hurt Entitled Grandma." The aftermath. The lawsuit was settled about a year ago. If you're wondering what happens after, my mom's family is completely a mess. Last I heard, entitled grandma has already burnt through all the money and is now receiving threats from her group of relatives as they want in with the share. Now she's begging to see the grandkids she loves so much. Talk about karma. Well, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have given in to entitled grandma's demands or not? Please let us know.
I'd have given her a quick trip down a long set of stairs, if you know what I mean.
Christian holier than thou entitled mom is back. This time, I'm not so nice. To give some background, every Christmas, me and my wife do our own version of Secret Santa, where we find some family in our church or surrounding community that is very financially strained and might not be able to afford Christmas gifts that year, and buy gifts for everyone in that family. This has been the 4th year we've done this, and quite frankly, it's a very rewarding experience to deliver holiday joy to a family in need. We mainly find our families secretly by asking church friends if they might know of a family that is going through a very tough time financially. Most of the time, the family either knows a Secret Santa is helping that year or is completely blindsided Christmas morning with special delivery. Although due to lockdown, we plan to load the presents on the doorstep and ring the doorbell as we get the family's reaction from the sidewalk. Now, on to the story. We got our information for 2 separate families that needed help this year, and me and my wife were planning out which gifts to buy for both families, gift budget, etc. During our brainstorming session, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, it was a kid's voice informing me that, "My mother would like to talk to you." I could hear the kid hand the phone to someone else, and then I was greeted by a familiar voice, the entitled mom of the story, aka friend's aunt. Entitled mom.
Hello, OP?
Me, eyes growing wide and silently cursing under my breath. Entitled mom? To what do I owe the pleasure? Entitled mom.
Well, I'm glad you asked. My nephew mentioned during a family Zoom call earlier that you were buying Christmas gifts for random strangers this year and how commendable your charitable giving was.
Me, mildly flattered at my friend's words, but at the same time wishing that he just kept his mouth shut. Well, he is correct. I am doing a Secret Santa this year.
Perfect. That's why I wanted to call you.
Me, you know of a family in need?
Yeah, me.
One thing I should point out about entitled mom that I learned from my friend is that she used to be married to a rich guy whose family owned some oil fields. From what I understand, when they divorced, she didn't get ownership of the family's assets. Despite this, she still stuck the guy with alimony and gained 70% custody of their child. Back to the story. Me, you need help? Entitled mom.
Yes. You see, I really wanted to get my son a PS5 for Christmas, and since my gift budget is already strained this year, I'd figured you could step up and help me bring him some holiday joy.
Me, already suspecting that something is very suspicious here. What do you mean that your gift budget is already strained?
Well, my car broke down, and I decided to buy a new one.
Me, well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully your new car is reliable.
Sure is. I decided to treat myself to an early Christmas gift and bought one of those brand new Cadillac Escalades.
I just so happened to have my Chromebook in front of me during the call, so I used it to look up the MSRP for a new Escalade, which had a starting price of above $75,000. At that moment, a very cold anger had started to arise in me, much akin to my previous encounter with the entitled mom. Here she is, again trying to take advantage of me just to get a PS5 for her kid while she blows money on a Cadillac. She could have bought a much cheaper car and could still have money left over for multiple PS5s and could have still had money left over to buy gifts for multiple families. My wife could see that I was not in a good mood and looked concerned as I walked into my office. I may have been nice to the entitled mom before, but this time I was going to give her a piece of my mind. Entitled mom.
So, going back to the PS5, if you could get one with a few games.
Me, cutting her off. No.
Excuse me?
Me. I will not be buying your son a PS5 for Christmas.
But he really wants one. Are you going to deny a kid's wish?
Me. Let me tell you something about my charitable giving. It goes to families that barely have enough to get by at the end of the day and are staring down the barrel of choosing between rent or Christmas gifts. Not entitled people like you who have poor spending habits. Entitled mom scoffs.
Why, I never. How dare you?
Me. Look who's talking. You obviously have more than enough money to purchase an SUV that costs more than a blue-collar income. Yet here you are trying to bum a free PS5 off of me? All because your budget is strained? If your budget is so strained, then why don't you sell that overpriced car and buy one yourself?
You should watch your tongue. You know, the Bible says that the younger generations should be subject to your elders.
This pushed me over the edge. At this point, I was fuming and had decided it was time to burn a bridge with entitled mom. Me. You know what? Maybe if you spent more time actually reading your Bible instead of thumping it all the time, you'd actually be more thoughtful of people other than yourself. Heck, maybe you'd be the one doing the Secret Santa. Don't you ever call my phone again. Clearly, you are someone who is not worth wasting my time on. I'd wish you a Merry Christmas, but maybe even that's too good for you. Hangs up. I blocked the number and proceeded to text my friend to make sure that his aunt never contacts me again. Oddly enough, I didn't need to take time to calm down. Telling entitled mom off was actually quite cathartic. Have you ever done a Secret Santa? If so, what kind of gifts did you buy? Please let us know. Nope, still didn't scan. Texas has this strange idea that providing you a driver's license the day you go to the DMV is risky. As such, they give you a piece of paper printed out in black and white and mail you the actual license at a later date. This is a bit strange as it creates a period where people carry a valid legal document that looks like a 5th grader pasted a headshot into MS Paint. This created an awkward dynamic when I worked at a gas station. What do people go to gas stations for? After that, the most common things are lottery, beer, and smokes. All of these are age-restricted and have rather intense laws surrounding unlawful sales. To help avoid the nasty fines / etc. associated with these, my gas station had a pair of rules. 1. For anyone you're not 100% sure is over 30, ask if they're over 30 and card them if you're not convinced they're older than 30 after said answer. Yes, the question was stupid, but whatever. 2. Scan all IDs to ensure they're legitimate documents and not fakes. At their face, these sound reasonable. Though the second caused an odd situation where fancier states had 3D barcodes instead of magnetic strips, meaning I couldn't sell. And this story is obviously heading towards the paper the DMV gives people. Here's one such story. It's a small rush, 3 to 4 people in line, and a younger guy comes in to buy beer. I'm honestly not sure if he's 21, so he's clearly not 30. I ask the nonsensical question, because really I can be fired if I just card him without asking the question. He tells me he's not older than 30. I ask for his ID, and he fumbles to pull out the dreaded paper ID. Now, the combination of Texas and my employer have put everyone into a frustrating situation. In addition to Texas using these silly paper IDs, state law also requires you to get an acceptable ID before making any sale once you've asked for ID. In other words, you can't ask for ID and then determine you believe they're old enough. If you doubt it enough to ask, you're liable for any sale. I see the ID and immediately feel bad. I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to take that ID. I recommend trying the gas station down the street that has different ownership and potentially more consumer-friendly rules. He provided the common response to ask why I can't take it. I explained to him the corporate policy requires I scan the magnetic strip of all IDs to verify their authenticity, and they've explicitly decided against waiving that rule for paper IDs. He instantly gets furious and tells me to scan the ID. This one caught me off a bit, and I asked him, "Are you serious?" To which he told me, "Yes, now scan my ID." Befuddled, I take the folded up piece of paper and slide it through the magnetic strip reader. "Sorry, sir, it didn't scan." This started a chain of events where each thing seemed more unrealistic. His response was, "You didn't even try." I asked if he'd like me to try harder to scan the ID, and he said he did. I looked at him confused and tried several different ways to slide this folded up piece of paper, unfolded piece of paper, slide slowly, quickly slide, used multiple scanners, etc. to get it to scan. Nope, still didn't scan. I hand it back to him and he's over the top at this point. It's also worth noting the line behind him is now about 10 people strong, including a few regulars watching in amazement as I'm remaining calm. He starts yelling at me and demands a contact for my manager. I pull out my paperwork and provide him a number for our corporate office. "No, stupid. I want your manager, not your corporate office." Okay. I gave him my manager's manager. I gladly handed him the store's number, which would come to me, and shared the hours my manager typically worked so he'd be free to try to call. After he left, I made a point to apologize to each person in line for the extra wait, while each also expressed surprise I hadn't snapped at the dude. Needless to say, he never made that call to my manager, though I don't know if he ever found his beer. Am I the jerk for selling my family home because my pregnant sister-in-law ate my dinner? I want to point out me and my brother have 2 different fathers. I, 19, female, lost my father last year to cancer. He left me 90% of his stuff, including his family home that was left to him by his dad. It's been in their family for over 100 years. My brother, 34, and my dad didn't have a relationship, but he did leave him $10,000. My mom was upset at the will reading, but since she got $10,000, she couldn't do anything about it. For the past year, me and her live okay together. She went on acting like it was her house, like before, which I had no problem with, till my brother and his girlfriend, who's 30, moved in without even asking me. They're messy, entitled, and rude. I told them in July I want them out by September because they don't pay for anything nor wash any dishes. In August, they announced they were pregnant, and my sister-in-law smugly said, "Guess we won't be moving out now." It didn't go down well, but when I told them I wanted them out, my mom and brother basically laughed in my face. Well, the past few months have been heck. They've become worse than before, and my mom enables it, then demands me to treat my sister-in-law like a princess because she's pregnant. I once had to wait outside McDonald's till they opened to get her a McMuffin. Well, here's where I may be the jerk. Because my sister-in-law is pregnant, she eats everything she sees, like the cupcakes my friend made for my birthday. She ate all 6. I didn't even get to try them. I can't even make my lunch the night before because when I go to get it, it will be gone. She'll have a smug look on her face while rubbing her belly, then laugh and say, "I couldn't help myself. Blame the baby." If I put stuff in the room, my mom will open the door with a spare key. Sister-in-law can go through my mini fridge. Well, a week ago, I was running late to college. I didn't have time for my breakfast or to make lunch, and I had to go to work straight after, so all I had that day was a bar of chocolate. When I got home, I was starving. I made myself dinner, and while it was cooling down, I went to use the restroom. I must have been in there 10 minutes at most, and by the time I came out, she had 70% of my dinner ate, and I literally lost my crap. Of course, she started crying. My mom and brother started screaming at me for making her cry, making excuses like she couldn't help it, and it was my fault for leaving food around her. Well, I had enough. I told them get out, just like before. I got mocked. But here's the thing. Back in October, my uncle offered me a life-changing amount of money for the house. I called him up crying a few days ago, explaining the situation, and he said he'd buy the house, but he will evict my mom and brother. They, of course, don't take it too well, and I have had to stay with a friend. I've been receiving texts, and I'm being tagged in multiple posts on social media. I'm starting to think I'm the bad person now. So, am I the jerk for making my mom and brother homeless? So, I'm on a break. I'll address some things. Some of your roasts are hilarious. I honestly deserve it for how bad my grammar is, but I was walking to work and declining calls from my mom while making this post. I almost said forget it and didn't post. If I sell the house to my uncle, I will lose $100,000, but he's always been good to me. It's one of those situations where I'd sleep better knowing it's gone to someone in my dad's family. My mom told me because of my age, I wouldn't be taken seriously if I tried to evict them. If I evict them and continue to live in the house along with the high financial costs, I don't think they'd ever let me live in peace. My mom has health issues, and my sister-in-law will have to move in with her parents. They won't allow my brother, so I'd be splitting up a young family in my mom's words. Guys, I'm actually crying. I've never been told before, "I'm proud of you," and the fact I've seen a thread of comments telling me that means the absolute world to me. Edit 2. I plan to meet a lawyer and will update you all as soon as I've news. Also, since people are curious, the house is worth $2.5 million. It's in the heart of London. Well, what do you think? Should OP sell the house or not? Please let us know.
Yes, most definitely. They will respect your authority.
Teach you something you don't know? Sure. Going through school, I got involved with a volunteer first aid brigade through a friend who I will call Jim. Yes, the same name from my previous story. Turns out the bully was a volunteer first aider. As a result, I became one of the youngest medical first responders in the country due to how much work I put in. I was trained to use the AED, shown how IVs worked, not use them, hook up people to oxygen tanks, and other stuff that you wouldn't be taught in a regular first aid course. I was age 14 and helped quite a few people as a result of my training and volunteer work. Can't say that I officially saved any lives though, but I digress. Shortly after getting out of high school, I got a job as a first aid instructor for a short while, though admittedly my age, I believe 17 to 18 at the time, didn't really inspire much confidence in my trainees, as most were much older than me. In many cases, I was assigned to renew people's certificates rather than actually teaching. In other cases, my class didn't really take me seriously due to my age. I didn't really mind this, as I was passionate about it at the time, having the knowledge that what I am teaching could possibly save people's lives. In this particular class, my clients were a class of high school students who needed their basic first aid for their classes. I don't recall what for exactly. This is a 5 to 6 hour course that ends with multiple choice test. Easy money. This was at the high school I went to, and surprise of surprises, this was a teacher I didn't particularly enjoy having. Not as bad as Mrs. Grump from my last story. We still got along for the most part, but her way of teaching was awkward. It's a little difficult to describe without being in her class personally. She always acted as though the students knew all the answers but were too shy to speak. Even if a student said they didn't know, she would say things like, "It's okay to answer, nobody is judging," and stuff like that. As I was not much older than the students, they weren't listening to me. There was one group of students that kept shouting, "Tell us something we don't know." I know, the basic first aid course, at least at this time, was repeating the same thing over and over again until you're brainwashed to repeat it, but show some respect. Teacher, of course, no help. During the break, the teacher took me aside and told me to teach the students something they didn't know. A lot of the basic first aid is common knowledge and common sense.
You're holding back. You know a lot more than what you are teaching. Show the students you know more than them.
Okay, sure. I talked to the principal of the school, who I was on good terms with, about what the teacher said and the students, and with his and the master instructor's permission, I added in a little-known module in the handbook to the lesson. When the students came back in, I start to talk. Some of you expressed that you want me to teach you something you don't know. Normally at this point, I would show you a video about asthma, but as I'm sure everyone knows about it, I've gotten special permission to change the lesson. Everyone, please turn to Module 28 in the textbook. The students complied, and a few gasps and chuckles echoed through the room. The teacher doubled over laughing, losing her own composure as well. So admittedly, I will be teaching this directly from the instructor's handbook, as I have never taught this module personally. We are going to be starting with a video. The class then proceeded to watch a 7-minute video on how to perform emergency childbirth. The video, fortunately, wasn't graphic. Afterwards, I called the students that had been going, "Teach us something we don't know," to come to the front and demonstrate the proper technique, using one of the CPR dummies as the mother and a head as the baby. Finally, we discussed how to take care of the placenta and how to administer ongoing care. After the module, the students were extremely attentive to say the least. Now that I've taught you something you don't know, how about we get through the rest of the lesson without any more interruptions? The class complied, and no one interrupted me for the rest of the session. Despite the malicious compliance, I didn't get in any trouble for it, and continued to teach the classes for this school's first aid until I let my instructor's certification expire. The next time I went in, the teacher warned the students that I would teach them something they didn't want to know if they interrupted me. And that, dear reader, is the time I taught a class of high schoolers how to perform emergency childbirth. I doubt I would ever get away with doing something like this now, but I will always remember this moment. Edit for clarity. A few of the comments are wondering how this is malicious compliance. I think the main understanding is that I was complying towards the teacher. I was actually complying to the annoying students who kept saying, "Tell us something we don't know." The spirit of the request was, "We are going to be jerks during this long-winded explanation about airway, breathing, and circulation." The letter of the request was, "We know this already. Teach us something new." As for why I taught emergency childbirth, the reason is a little underwhelming. While burns and NPA tubes would have been a fantastic choice, I needed a module that would replace asthma in length of time, which left either poisons or emergency childbirth. Am I the jerk for yelling at my fiancé after she hid my glasses? Me, male 31, and my fiancé, female 26, have been together for 2.5 years, engaged for 4 months. We currently live together in an apartment an hour away from the hospital where my dad is staying. He has lung cancer. His condition hasn't been improving, and I've been visiting him and my family whenever I can to see if they need anything from me. My fiancé's cousin's wedding was yesterday. I don't like attending weddings and large occasions, especially now that my dad is struggling, so I'm not really in the mood. But I decided to go anyway since my fiancé insisted. But I got a call from my mom wanting my help at the hospital. My fiancé heard me while I was talking on the phone and threw a fit when I told her that I can't go with her to the wedding because my mom needed me. She argued with me, but I told her to have some empathy and realize how much pressure she was putting me under. I noticed my glasses were missing, and without them, it was impossible for me to drive. I looked everywhere and I couldn't find them, although I was certain I left them on the coffee table. I spent nearly an hour looking, and I was getting so frustrated. I didn't have a choice but to call my mom back and explain the issue I was dealing with and apologized for not coming. Thankfully, she said she'd call my sister, and the call ended. Exactly 10 minutes after the call ended, my fiancée walked out of the bedroom wearing her dress and holding my glasses in her hands, telling me to get ready to go to her cousin's wedding. I was stunned. I knew she had hid them because when I asked where she found them, she said they were on the nightstand, but I looked there and I couldn't find them. I literally yelled at her for pulling this nonsense so that I won't go to the hospital and go with her to the wedding instead. I told her I won't go after this, and she yelled back and said that my family are treating me like a doormat by constantly asking me to come and taking advantage of me. She said that I should let someone else deal with their never-ending problems and focus on us. She tried to convince me, but I still refused because I was upset. I took my glasses and I left immediately. I didn't find her at home, and I started getting texts from her mom wanting to know what was wrong, but I haven't replied to her, thinking she'll instantly take her side. Well, who do you agree with? OP or his fiance? Please let us know.
You sure you want to marry her, bruh?
Karen won't get out of the handicapped parking space and gets angry when she gets blocked in. Here I was, thinking that I'd run out of entitled people stories that don't involve my mother, but I'm back with yet another one. This happened a few days ago. I'm recovering from abdominal surgery 12 days prior to when this happened. I was finally feeling up for shopping, and there were things I needed from the hardware store. I'm a 30-year-old disabled female in a wheelchair, incomplete quadriplegic, and I don't have a car, so I got a taxi there, one with a ramp on the back so I don't have to get out of my wheelchair. Mr. Taxi Man, who we'll call Bruce, dropped me off and I went in to do my thing, nothing out of the ordinary. When I finished my shopping, I called to get the taxi back. It would be a 15-minute wait, but it was such a nice day that I didn't mind waiting outside. As I was waiting, I noticed that someone was parked in the disabled parking space, but there were no disabled tags on the windscreen. Annoying, but I honestly didn't care at that point. I just wanted to get home. About 10 minutes later, I saw a middle-aged woman walk out of the store and went straight to that car. She opened the boot, put her shopping in, and went around to the driver's side. But instead of getting in though, she got out a cigarette and started looking at her phone. A few minutes after that, I saw my taxi arrive. Bruce, being the polite and patient man he is, waited for the woman to drive out of the car space. Karen knew he was waiting for her, and she was darn sure she was parking illegally in the disabled parking space. But do you think she cared? She finished her cigarette and got into her car. We waited and waited, then waited some more, until Bruce got rightly fed up and parked the taxi directly behind Karen's car, blocking her in. This is when things got interesting. Karen began to honk her horn repetitively for a few seconds before she got out of her car. Karen:
What the heck do you think you're doing? You blocked me in.
Bruce, in a mocking, apologetic tone: I'm very sorry, ma'am, but I needed the car space, and you seem to want to stay there. Just thought I'd do you a favor. Now, if you don't mind, I have a job to do. Bruce gestured in my direction as I gave Karen a big smile. I hate confrontation, so I appreciated Bruce doing this for me. Bruce got into the car and fastened me and the wheelchair into place, all the while with Karen yelling and threatening to call the police. If it were any other day, I would have been happy to call the police so Karen would get a fine, but I just wanted to go home. It only took a few minutes before I was secured in the car and we left, but I made sure to give Karen a smile and a one-finger salute through the window as we were leaving, which made the encounter all the more sweeter. My parents gave away my childhood dog. I'll start out from the beginning. When I was very young, I don't exactly remember when, we got a dog. That dog grew up with me. I'd cry with him, I'd hug him, I'd spend time with him, play fetch, everything. He knew when I wanted support, he knew when to leave me alone, and he was a very good boy. He had a history of ear infections. He had floppy ears that we took good care of. Even being young, I knew this and took care of his ears and made sure he was okay. About 2 years before we moved out of my childhood house, which had ample yard space for him, my parents got another dog for my father. This became my father's dog. Still to this day, does not really like anyone but him. My dog was a large dog as well that needed yard space and such for reference. Fast forward to when I'm 13 or so. My dog, Alex, changed for privacy, is about 7 or 8 years old. My parents decided to downsize a bit and move since my brother had left. We go through places, and I am adamant we find a place that can support my dog, Alex. They decide upon a place that's rent agreement says 1 dog and hardly has space for Alex. I beg and plead with them to find a place that can support him, but they say no. They say the house that we were at was too expensive and they didn't think I'd take Alex on walks, despite me promising to. Their compromise was giving him to my aunt, who had a farm. They promised me he'd love it. I yelled and screamed for days until finally saying yes because they said we'd visit. We move, he gets rehomed there, and they quickly state they will be giving him to another owner. I only got to visit him once. Fast forward a few years, Alex is almost near death, and my older brother finds him and adopts him. I see him once, and Alex passes away. To this day, I've still not forgiven my parents for it. I wouldn't say that I'm angry, but I'm definitely still hurt and upset that he spent so many years with us and passed with a family that he was only with for a few years. I also wonder how his ear infections were treated, because when my brother got him, it appeared no one had treated them and he was almost deaf. It hurt me to wonder how upset Alex was and how much Alex missed us and me. So the question is, am I the jerk for not forgiving my parents? I don't really bring it up that often unless it's an argument where it degrades into talking about past things we've done, but I feel like maybe it is time to let go and forgive them. It's been over 10 years or so since this happened. Edit with more info. 2:05 a.m., December 13th. Everything written above was written with the information I knew at the time of writing it. I spoke to my parents about it before I went to bed last night. They said there were some financial issues and they didn't have a lot of time to move. They said they put Alex with my aunt temporarily to find a good home for Alex, and quickly did with some good friends from work. The reason they stated is, it wasn't fair for Alex to have a tiny yard and not much space. My dad's dog is a small dog and could make do with a small yard. From what I understand, he was placed with a home that loved him dearly. He lived to a good age, and my brother got him back before he passed, but my parents aren't sure how. Have you ever had a dog of your own? If so, what was their name? Please let us know.
I'd love a new puppy for Christmas, Mr. Reddit.
Security guard harasses me for waiting for my ride. So I work at an enterprise with a casino, hotel, and restaurants. I'm a custodian there, and I've been for about a year, and every day afterwards, I wait for any of my family members, or if no one's available to pick me up, an Uber to pick me up. I wait outside the main entrance in a specific spot for rideshare pickups. I had my uniform shirt off, but my uniform pants were still on, for obvious reasons. But I don't know if this security guard is new or whatever. But I was on my phone listening to my music, and he suddenly came up to me, waving to me. I turned my AirPods off and talked to him. Guard.
Hey.
Me. Hey, can I help you?
Yeah. Can you take your AirPods out?
Me. No thanks, I can hear you just fine. I have my music off. Guard.
Okay, whatever. You mind telling me what you're doing out here?
Me. I'm waiting for my ride. Why? Guard.
Oh, okay, I got you. Just wondering. Any reason you waiting here instead of by the employee entrance?
Me. Yeah. Uber usually has trouble finding it because GPS doesn't directly lead to the entrance, so waiting here is just easier because this spot is made for waiting for rideshare pickups. So, guard.
Okay then. Well, do you have your work badge?
Me. Yes, it's in my pocket.
Can you put it on?
Me. I don't think I have to.
Yes, you do. It's policy to have it on.
Me. No, it's policy to have it on when you're in the building. I'm not in the building, and I'm not even near the entrance. There's no reason for me to have my badge on. Guard.
Okay, fine. I guess if you want to play that game, can I get your name?
Me. I don't think I have to tell you. Guard.
I'm not asking you. I'm telling you to give me your name.
What the heck? I'm not giving you anything. You have no right to demand my information. I've done nothing wrong.
You're loitering outside the building, so I need your name to make a report.
Me. What the heck? Loitering? I'm waiting for my ride in the rideshare pickup, so obviously I have a purpose. I've been doing this for a whole year and I've had no problems. Plenty of security officers saw me waiting here in uniform and didn't come to harass me.
I'm not harassing you. I'm telling you, you can't be sitting out here with no business.
Me. You're not a cop. What makes you think you can do that?
I may not be, but I have a right to protect the people here and the building, and you're waiting in the rideshare pickup that's for guests, not employees.
Me. Man, please. I don't feel like dealing with this. I just want to go home.
Guard. You're not going anywhere until you give me your information.
Me. You know what? Do you have a supervisor I can speak with? Guard.
Yes, I do.
Me. Can you please get him out here? He called out his supervisor, and I waited for him to come out. After about 10 minutes, he came out and talked to me. Supervisor.
Hey, so what can I help you with?
Me. Hi. So your guard here is harassing me for waiting for my ride in the rideshare pickup that's supposedly not for employees, which I find very hard to believe, as I've been working here for a year and always waited here after work. Plenty of guards and cops saw me waiting here and didn't give me any problems for it. Then he started demanding to have my badge on, even though it's policy to have it on when you're in the building, and I have a right to have it off outside. Then he started demanding for my information to make a report, I guess. And now he's detaining me because I won't give him my personal information. Supervisor. Okay, I understand. Well, you are right. This rideshare pickup is for anyone, and you're allowed to have your badge on or off outside the building here, but you do need to have it on whenever you're inside the building. Me. Yeah, I understand, sir, but listen, I've been harassed for the past 15 minutes. I just want to order my Uber and go home. If you can please just educate him about everything here and get him to leave me alone, that'd be great. Supervisor. Okay, yeah, I'll keep that in mind, and you're free to go or stay. Sorry for any inconvenience. Have a nice day. Me. Okay, thank you. Before you go, is there any way I can make a complaint? Supervisor. Yeah, there's a number you can contact. I can give it to you if you want, but you can also stop by our main office to make a complaint there. Would you like the number? Me. Yes, please. He gave me the number, and they finally left me alone. I'm definitely going to stop at the office and make a complaint about him for harassment. I'll make an update how that goes whenever I decide to do that. Have you ever been harassed by someone like a security guard? If so, what were they saying to you? Please let us know.
I've been harassed by people in your comments. Can someone just say one nice thing about me?
Am I the jerk for telling my ex-wife she didn't have to make a scene? So my daughter said for her 15th birthday that she wanted to go shopping with both my ex-wife, who's 51 female, and I, 53 male, and pick out a camel coat because she's wanted one for a long time. My current wife, 31 female, and our son, 2 male, happened to be there because my wife wanted to buy stuff in the department store we were going to, but she drove herself and our son there in a different car. A very young saleswoman that seemed new comes out and starts helping my daughter out. My ex-wife is standing pretty far away, and my current wife was nearby looking at some winter coats with our son. My daughter finds a coat that she really likes and asks what I think. I tell her that I like whatever she likes, and at this point, she's looking at herself in the mirror. The sales lady then gestures towards my ex-wife and says, "Why don't you go show grandma and see what she thinks?" My ex-wife is within earshot and very visibly stiffens at the remark. My daughter kind of just looks shocked, and her stepmother interjects and says, "Oh no, I'm not her mom. She's the mom." The sales girl was very clearly embarrassed and flustered, and the first thing she does is sputter out to my current wife, "I thought you were a bit too young to have a teenager." And then she turns to my ex-wife and very apologetically says, "I'm sorry, ma'am," and makes her excuses and pretty much backs away from all of us. My ex-wife's face turns red, and when my daughter tried to speak to her, my ex-wife said, "Excuse me for a minute, I'll be right back," and then she rushed out of the store. My daughter ended up not buying anything, and when my ex-wife came back, my daughter said she'd rather go home and have her birthday cake. On the ride back to my ex's place, my ex-wife muttered that she hoped that sales girl was new because she clearly didn't know how to deal with customers. I didn't think that was fair for my ex-wife to say rude things about someone who just made an innocent mistake and to still be holding a grudge over a stupid comment. When our daughter was out of earshot, I told her that she didn't have to ruin the day by leaving the store and that I've been mistaken for somebody's brother that I looked 0% like. She started crying and saying that's not the same thing as being called someone's grandmother, and how dare I fault her for her reaction. Then she sarcastically said, "Thanks again for helping the world remind me how gracefully I'm aging." Am I the jerk here? I was just defending this poor girl who clearly just spoke her mind. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
Awkward.
Touched by a Karen. I've worked in retail and customer service positions my whole life and frequently get mistaken for an employee when I'm not. I've gotten used to it, and for the most part I understand it. Oftentimes it happens when I'm running errands after work in my black uniform slacks and the basic shirts I wear underneath my work logo embroidered button-downs. I also carry around a large keyring of jingle keys. I can't really blame people under those circumstances. Anyway, here's my most recent interaction for your, hopefully, enjoyment. I was shopping at a large chain pharmacy on an unusual mission to spend a $400 health benefit card that was about to expire. It only worked on certain items, so I was having to spend a decent amount of time finding things that qualified that my household could actually use. Out of the corner of my eye, occasionally kept seeing this same little old lady. Over and over, I was catching glances of her peering down aisles at me. I assumed because of my outfit that day. It was my day off, and I was wearing my punk rock adjacent street clothing. I'm used to stares and glares, for even though my style has toned down with age, I paid no mind and kept shopping. About 45 minutes into my mission, my cart was nearly full, and I was focused on reading fine print ingredients on some product. I hear someone's throat clear. I look up and see the little old lady. She looks me up and down several times. I have my hair in a messy rat's nest ponytail on top of my head, black and white striped drain pipe jeans, Doc Martens, and a black t-shirt with "Touched by Satan" in large print on an image of Satan touching someone on the shoulder with a speech bubble saying, "Tag, you're it," causing them to burst into flames. I push my glasses back up my nose and look at her. She stares at my shirt. I stare back at her. She adjusts her glasses, clears her throat again, and raises her eyes to meet mine. We make prolonged, awkward eye contact. I'm silent, internally flinching, expecting to get backlash about my shirt, and finally she says,
"Do you work here?"
I am completely dumbfounded. No, I don't.
"Oh, that's... I thought you worked here, since you have a cart filled with so much... I just was hoping for some help finding laundry detergent. I'm sorry."
She pursed her lips and looked puzzled and embarrassed. Well, I don't work here, but I do shop here often, so I know where it is. Follow me, I'll show you. She made a sound like she was going to protest, but I strode off with confidence to lead her to the detergent. She followed. I pointed out the detergent section once we were in eyeshot. After she spotted it, she smiled warmly back at me and said,
"Thank you, sweetie. You have a good day."
I wished her the same and went back to finish my shopping. After 15 plus years of getting grief over my clothing choices, this confusing interaction warmed my heart. Hopefully, it warms one or two hearts here on Reddit. Thanks for reading. Apologies for any formatting issues. This was written on a mobile device. Have you ever gotten any weird looks for something you were wearing? If so, what were you wearing? Please let us know.
"Everywhere I go, people point at me and whisper. They're probably just complimenting my shirt."
Am I the jerk for telling my aunt I'm not gonna follow her relationship advice because she's a quadruple divorcee? I'm currently single, but for some reason, my aunt has decided I need advice on how to keep a man. I'm not sure why she's focused on my dating life, but it's her favorite subject of conversation. Regardless of how often she's told to stop or change the subject, she still insists on giving me advice. Her advice is bad. For example, she's told me to not let my future boyfriend be friends with other women, not let him go out alone unless it's to work, make him pay for everything, make a list of relationship rules for him to follow. These are just the ones that stood out as awful to me, and they must be wrong because my aunt has now been divorced 4 times. It's always her exes who initiate the divorce, but all she ever says about the divorce is that her exes are weak men who don't understand how to sustain a healthy relationship with a mature woman. She stopped by today and within 30 minutes started dishing out her advice to me again. She'd been asked to stop twice at this point, but was still mid-rant. I couldn't take it anymore, so I loudly said, "Why would I follow the relationship advice of someone who's been divorced 4 times by the age of 50? She stared at me and then went mental, like crying while shouting about how I was rude, cruel, and arrogant, and that I should be grateful someone was willing to help me get a relationship after being single for so long. I'm 18. I'm happy being single right now." She left shortly after this. Mom's telling me bringing up aunt's divorces was an unnecessary low blow, and I should have just ignored her because she had good intentions. Dad just said, "She had it coming," and hasn't mentioned it again. I'm starting to have second thoughts about how I handled it because she is sensitive about her divorces and being single again at her age, but I couldn't think of another way to get her to stop. So, am I the jerk? What do you think? Is OP the jerk or is the aunt the jerk? Please let us know.
I agree with the dad. It was only a matter of time.
I do work here, just not, here. I'll start this story by saying that I've been in some form of customer service for most of the past 45 years. Yep, I'm an old geezer. In all those years, I've had more than a few ridiculous customers, including one man who threatened to hurt me because his credit application was turned down. But I've never really had a Karen or Chad, whatever you call a male Karen. Today I thought it was all about to change. I'm retired and working part-time for a friend who manages a large discount store. Clothing, housewares, home decor, etc. My job is shoes. That's it. I process the hundreds of shoes that get there daily. I spend my days in the back stock room. On days when there aren't a lot of shoes, I'll help run out the other stock. On this day of days, I was doing just that. I had a big rolling shelf, chock full of impulse buys. Those inexpensive items that stores always put up front by the registers when it happened. There's a longish line of people waiting to check out, and as I'm rearranging a section to work in the new goodies, I hear a guy speaking to me. Nobody ever speaks to me. You could jump on that open register. Oh, happy day, joy of joys. Today, I finally get me a Karen, and a boy Karen to boot. I've read hundreds of stories on Reddit, and I'm not the shrinking violet that seems to attract them. I'm a jerk. Messing with jerks is my hobby. I smile at him. I can't do that. How come? He asks. Well, it's actually the same reason that you can't do it. I don't know how. I'm ready to go. I've waited my whole life for Karen or her husband. Today is my day. This is practically my big O. I'm locked and loaded. The man looks at me for a second. He's thinking of some smart comeback. Come on, dude. Give me your best shot. Actually, that's a really good reason. He chuckles. Wait, what? But, Mr. Karen, you're supposed to be mean, insane. What the heck? Now I gotta go regroup. I point to the 3 or 4 young ladies who are cashiering. They only have the pretty girls up front. They usually just keep the ugly old dude in the back. But I escaped, I told him. He laughs again. That's a really good policy. As an ugly old dude myself, I'd much rather get checked out by the pretty girls than by another old guy. He gets called up next. Have a great rest of your day, he says as he heads over to one of the pretty girls. Well, crap. So today's not my day. Dang you, nice old dude. I know you're out there, Mr. or Mrs. Karen, and I'm waiting. Aspiring CEO wants people to work for her for free and calling a cop on me when I tried to help. Karen, an aspiring CEO of a startup, was a roommate in a shared house I lived in during my internship at a tech company. Her fear is that someone would steal her startup idea, so the first time we met, she asked whether I worked at her competitors. She then introduced me to F, whom she called her friend, and she said was always willing to drive her around for shopping. Later I realized that's her definition of friends, people whom she could use. F is also a freelance graphic designer whom Karen hired to design her pitch deck. As months go by, F and I got closer as we have similar hobbies, and soon he confided in me that Karen hasn't paid him for the hours he did her last deck. Karen has been telling everyone in the house that she's broke, so F felt bad for asking his payment, but F needed the money too. I merely cheered him up and said nothing other than, let's hope she'll get her funding soon with the new deck. Then Karen asked F to change some numbers in the slides because she said investors would like to see the updated numbers, and F refused to do so until Karen paid him for the last job, or at least signed a written agreement that she would pay in installments by a deadline. In the meantime, seeing that F and I were spending a lot of time together, which means she lost her driver, Karen was talking behind my back with other housemates, accusing me of being a bad and evil roommate, cheating on my partner with F. Once, after asking when my internship would end, she suddenly just told me to leave my partner and stay with F. I just smiled and said it's none of her business. F and I were just friends. I would leave the area once my internship ended, back to my partner of 7 years, and F knew that for a fact. I guess she also thought that I convinced F to never help her again with her deck. I did no such thing. F is an adult and could make his own decisions on what to do with his life. So basically, Karen was trying to kick me out of the house, as she had done once to another roommate, and was proud of it. However, she didn't get any support from the others because everyone else was also fed up with her. So Karen decided to move out because she felt the house's environment is toxic. I was relaxing on my bed, we were sharing a bedroom, while she was packing her stuff. Then, Karen,
Hey, I'm moving out. I hope you treat F well. Everyone was sad that I'm losing a good friend like him.
Me, sure, he's a friend. I won't use my friends. Karen,
Well, you made him lose his job and income.
she meant designing her deck.
Investors are waiting for the new deck. Your personal life is ruining my startup.
Me, hey, don't drag me into your problem with him. I have nothing to do with it. If you have a problem with him, talk to him, don't talk to me. Karen,
Of course it has everything to do with you. He's in love with you. Can't you see it?
me, rolling my eyes. What happened between me and F is none of Karen's business. It shouldn't interfere with her professional relationship with F either. The problem is that you haven't paid him. Solve that issue professionally. Don't make it personal.
He refused to help me with my deck because of you. I told my friends about it. They were livid.
Me, see, that's exactly your problem. Instead of talking to him directly, you talked to other people about it. Bullseye. After that, she was spouting things that didn't make any sense. She said I don't know anything about how startups work. Her mom is sick and could lose the money she put into her daughter's startup. And whose fault is that? She's now broke and trying so hard to get funding for her startup, so she desperately needs her new deck. I put on my headphones trying to sleep. Wasn't really interested in hearing her whining about her life. I needed to get up early for work the next day, while she was usually still on the bed, swiping her phone, even when I was ready to leave for work. The perks of being a startup founder. She then started sending F threatening emails, demanding he send her the raw files of the design ASAP, and to sign an NDA because she's afraid people will steal her idea and research data. F refused because he didn't want that she could trick another designer to do it for her for free. I wanted to free F of Karen's hateful emails and to help Karen as well, so I sent her a message through LinkedIn. Not our first exchange. She once asked me where I was one night, not sleeping at the house. I was at my company outing. I have screenshots of the conversation, so this is accurate. Me. Hi Karen, instead of wasting your time harassing someone you can't afford to pay to work for you, you could change the deck yourself. Continued explaining how to convert PDF to other editable formats. Karen.
This is your fault. You don't understand startups. Get your personal life out of my company. If you're unable to get yourself out, third parties will. You have until midnight to get yourself out of my company so it can proceed properly. If you contact me again, I'm calling the police for harassment and looking into a restraining order.
Karen.
Calling the police.
Me. I agree. I have no idea how startups work. But if I were a startup founder, I would try to persuade people to work for me with my passion for my ideas, not with aggression, threats, and by meddling into their private life. You should really separate business from personal matters. I was writing my long reply, so I didn't read her last message about restraining order and calling police when I hit send. My original intention was to help F by helping Karen, but looking back now, I was at fault here, giving unsolicited advice layered with some judgments and critics. I'm not proud of what I did, but at least I learned my lesson, not to repeat the same mistake. After that, I stopped sending messages. It's hopeless, I thought, as she wanted. But, Karen.
Get your personal life the heck out of my company. You have until midnight to make things right. Investors are waiting for a fixed deck.
Karen.
If your personal life is in my company, have F send an editable version to this guy to fix. He's in tech. Here's his contact information for you.
Putting a link to my partner's website.
I really am contacting police if you reach out to me again. Please stop. I asked you to stop. Lurking on my LinkedIn needs to stop.
At that point, I felt like I was the one being harassed, since I said absolutely nothing and she kept messaging me. What creeps me out is that she stalked me online, found out who my partner is, possibly from Facebook, then Googled his name to get into his website. My partner is my colleague. We both have PhDs in computer science. So sure, both of us know how to edit presentation slides as we make our lectures, but I was a bit offended when she simply said, "He's in tech," and expected him to fix her slides. Anyway, she was proven to be delusional, so I blocked her on LinkedIn and Facebook. I guess she didn't know this feature exists, otherwise she would simply do that when she desperately wanted me to stop contacting her. I wonder how her startup is doing now. I got to scare a thief. I used to work as a retail supervisor for a hospital hotel for years. I got a lot of stories during that time, but this one is one of my favorites. The first time we see the person in question, he was grabbing a tray and heading over to the soup bar. I remember distinctly that he was wearing a very bright, memorable Hawaiian shirt. I was working the register, so I had a pretty good vantage point of most of the area customers would be, which makes it easier to keep an eye on everyone and everything. The man came up with his tray of soup, staring straight ahead. Worried he would pass me and forget to pay, I said in my winning customer service voice, "Hello, sir." He kept walking. "Sir, you have to pay for that." Still no response, and he didn't even speed up his walk. "Sir, sir!" Being a woman on the short side, there was no way for me to stop him, so I picked up the phone and dialed security. The man decided to walk out into our courtyard, which just so happened to not double as an exit. Security came to me, asked me about what had happened, then went to go talk to the individual. He ended up being escorted off the premises, and we thought that was that, just a very bold thief. But no, it couldn't stop there. It was a slow day, so hours later I was chatting with a coworker, me behind my counter, my coworker on the other side. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a very familiar Hawaiian shirt. The thief had returned. Now, for me personally, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I didn't say anything at first, but I did keep half an eye on him while I chatted with my work friend. On the complete other side of the room from where I was, trust me, huge room, I saw the man pick up a bag of chips and stuff them in his shirt. I was pretty ticked off, so before I could think, hesitate, or finish the sentence I was on in my conversation, Big Sister voice came out, and I yelled in a voice that is often used to frighten bigger people than me. "Sir, put those chips back right now!" My coworker was frozen in place with surprise and confusion, and the man's eyes were huge. There was silence for a few moments as I did my best to keep up the stern expression I had. He walked over to me, and it was suddenly very obvious how much smaller I was. Without saying a word, he took the chips out of his shirt, laid them down on the counter in front of me, and trudged away. For years after that, it was my coworker's favorite story of me and one I tend to chuckle at now. Am I the jerk for not giving my pregnant friend my old baby items after I found out she's selling them? I, female 32, just had my third and final kid. He's 5 months old now. I have loads of baby things from my older kids and also some things I bought brand new. My friend, Tina, who's 37, is currently pregnant with her first. I offered her all my unused baby items along with everything my babies grow out of by the time she's due in December. She likes to shop in secondhand stores, so my baby items certainly weren't beneath her. Baby stuff is so expensive, and when she offered me money for them, I declined, saying I was happy to help her out and see them go to a good home. The items offered included cots, swings, bouncers, clothes, pumps, and a lot more. Last weekend, I dropped my first lot of stuff over as I didn't want to have clutter in my house till December. I brought over all my 0 to 6 month clothes, some still new in packaging, the pump, one swing, and a baby monitor. The next day, I got a Facebook notification that someone I knew posted items for sale on Marketplace. It was Tina, selling everything I dropped over. I was livid and called her to explain myself. She told me she didn't see the big deal. She was going to sell them and use the money towards brand new items. I saw red, went over to her face, and took everything back. I told her she wouldn't be getting everything else I was going to give her either. The way I see it, I gave her those things to be helpful and would have sold them myself if she hadn't taken them. Why should she profit off of me? Later that day, her boyfriend calls me and screams down the phone about how disgusting I am to do that to Tina while she's pregnant and how crappy of a friend I am. But I'm digging my feet in. I really don't think what I did was a jerk move. If anything, she's the jerk for selling my kindness. So, Reddit friends, am I the jerk? Should I be bringing this stuff back to her? ETA. I would have donated a lot of the clothes and smaller items to our local charity for the homeless and single parents in need of aid, and only sold the bigger items such as the cot. My rage was her taking away from them and making money out of it. ETA 2. When she offered me money for them, she said, "Oh, you're so kind for giving me all of this for baby. It's so hard to baby shop with what's going on. I really should give you something for it." I told her no, and I was just happy to help her out, and she thanked me for making it easier for her. Had she told me that her intent was to sell them, I wouldn't have given her anything and instead offered to buy her something off her baby registry. Am I the jerk if I keep the money a patient left me? I'm 22, female, and I'm a CNA and I do home care. I used to take care of this man who was in his late 90s. He was super sweet, World War II veteran, and a smart guy. He progressively, obviously, got worse as he aged. His daughters were there a lot to watch him / take care of him, but they got frustrated with him and would yell or storm out. I was pretty much the only person to not yell at him. When he became incontinent, he still would have the urge to go to the bathroom and would try to actually go use the urinal, but his daughters kept telling him to ignore it and just go in his brief instead. It was a mess. I didn't know he had a good amount of money stashed away. The house was small and relatively not well kept. The only real valuable stuff were medals he won from photography contests. I used to take him on drives and help him in a wheelchair, and he would tell me all kinds of stories from whatever places we would go to. He recently passed from natural causes. As he got worse, the daughters became more frustrated with him and his inability to be independent. He couldn't walk much, let alone stand. He would shake and fall back, and he started to become more forgetful. I don't think the daughters didn't love him. I mean, they took care of him, but the last couple of years of his life were kind of miserable. They argued constantly. When he passed, I was allowed to attend the funeral to pay my respects. A while later, I found out he left me a sum of money to help with college, and that he wanted me to go on to do great things like we had talked about. He said I was going to make a great doctor, and there was a pretty emotional letter in it. He left the house to his daughters and some of the money to them, but most of it was left to me, $150,000. The daughters were mad, tried saying I was a horrible person, that I was probably doing him favors I shouldn't have been, and they tried to get me fired ever since by constantly calling my company. My company's HR asked me if I knew anything about this, and I said no. This has been a total mess. They said the right thing to do is to give the money to them. There's 3 daughters, all in their 50s and one in her 60s. I thought about doing it, but quite frankly, I don't want to. They didn't treat him that well, and it's not like he didn't leave them anything. They also are all well off themselves and work nice jobs. He wasn't cognitively impaired, no Alzheimer's or dementia of any kind. The change in his will was made over a year ago before he became more confused and weak. I told my mom, and she said it would be rude to disrespect his wishes, that I took good care of him. We struggled with money for a long time, and she sees this as a gift, so I don't have to worry about debt. She's not asking for any of it. So, am I the jerk if I keep the money? Yes, it's my truck. And no, you can't buy it for 50 bucks. This is long, so grab a cup of coffee, tea, or whatever keeps you happy and reading. I live in a senior housing community for people aged 55 and older. We all have identical one-bedroom cottages that's set up in groups of 4 or quads so that all of our front doors face inward towards each other. So if I open my front door, I have a very clear view of the front doors of my 3 neighbors, and because I'm in the back of this quad, I also have a view of the parking area. I think the purpose of grouping the houses this way was to create a friendly and safe atmosphere. However, it's just creepy in a you have no privacy kind of way. I'm female, 57, disabled, and have a 16-year-old pickup truck that gets me where I need to go most of the time. If you've ever owned a pickup truck, you'll understand my frustration. If you haven't owned one, talk to anyone who has, and they will tell you that according to friends, families, acquaintances, neighbors, and even complete strangers, you have it so that you can help them move, haul furniture, or a tree they cut down, or anything else they can't fit in the trunk of their car. And because it is a pickup truck, it can be mistreated, dented, scratched, beaten up, and treated like a piece of heavy construction equipment, and you shouldn't care because, well, it's a truck. I have a neighbor, female, about 65 years old, that has kind of made a pest of herself since the day I moved in. I've done my best to be neighborly, nice, and accommodating, but each time I interact with her, I'm left feeling used. The neighbor, let's call her Karen, has come over pretending to want to visit me, which she does for about 2 minutes, and then asks me for something. In the 3 years that I've been here, she's asked me to set up 2 TVs at different times, take a new alarm clock out of its packaging, and then teach her how to operate it. I've been asked to fill out her food stamp paperwork, fill out information for her lease renewal, read a piece of mail to her and explain it because she didn't understand it, to take her places, and to loan her money for the bus. That's just a few. Now that you get the idea of what I've dealt with before, it's time for the story. One Monday morning, Karen comes beating on my door. She does what I call a cop knock, hard, loud, and repeatedly, around 8 a.m., waking me up. I'm a night owl, by the way. I go to the door and she's standing there holding her natural gas bill, telling me how she needed a ride to the gas company's office to talk to them about paying the bill, and hands me the bill. I look at it, hoping to find a number for her to call, but there isn't one. But I do see that her bill is for about $17. So I take her across town with her providing the directions since I had never been to this building. The gas company did not have an office in town, so I guess this was maybe a payment center. I drop her off at the front door, park, and wait for her. Karen comes out saying that they can't help her there and asks me if she could just call them to make arrangements to make payments since she didn't have the money. I tell her that's what I would do and bring her back home. We basically made this trip for nothing. 2 days later, there's another loud, repeated banging on my door, waking me up just before 9 a.m. Karen is back and seems to be a little frantic. She needs a ride again. This time, she's very vague about why she wants to go, but left me with the impression that something was going to get turned off, repossessed, or turned over to collections if she didn't go. She's also vague as to where she wants to go. She keeps telling me that it's down by the casino, across the street from the gas station. I tell her I'd take her, but she would have to point me in the right direction since I've never been to the casino. She gives me turn-by-turn directions until she has me turn left onto the entrance road for the casino. I'm looking around for any other businesses or even the gas station, and I'm not seeing anything other than the casino in front of us and open land on either side. So I ask her where am I supposed to be dropping her. Karen points to an upcoming sign and says,
See the sign that says valet? Just follow that sign.
Yep, you guessed it. Karen had me drop her at the front entrance to the casino. She had lied to me by omission. She didn't ask me to take her to the casino, which I would probably have done since it's none of my business how she spends her money. She asked me to take her to a business near the casino. Yeah, well, I wasn't happy. On Monday, she couldn't afford to pay her $17 gas bill, and on Wednesday, she's going to the casino by tricking me into taking her. A week goes by, and I'm in the office paying my rent when Karen comes in. Karen,
Why didn't you tell me you were coming here today? Girl, I just walked all the way here.
Me, didn't know you needed a ride. I can give you a ride back to the house if you'd like. I wait while Karen pays her rent and we walk out together. Now, I'm expecting to get in my truck and drive the 4 blocks back to my house. Karen had another idea. Karen,
Take me to Everything's Cheap store.
me, where?
to everything's cheap. Just turn around here at the stop sign and I'll show you. It's not far.
Me. Karen, I'm going to take you there, but I'm not shopping and I'm not going to sit in the parking lot and wait for you. You'll have to get another ride home or walk. Karen.
It's fine. I won't be long.
I drop her at the front door and I go home. A couple hours later, she bangs on my door. Karen.
Where did my ride go?
Me. Home. I told you that I wasn't going to wait for you.
I had all my stuff that I had to carry home. Now my back hurts.
Me. I'm sorry, but I warned you. Karen walks away muttering things that I didn't understand and slammed her door. Skip ahead several months, and I run into Karen again as I'm paying my rent. She wants me to give her a ride to the Social Security office. I tell her that I can't, as my truck is not running right, and I can't get too far from home in it until I get it checked out and fixed. My truck started having issues, and it's been difficult trying to get it fixed with lockdown, a back issue that left me bedridden for several weeks, and 2 major hurricanes this year. There's nothing major wrong with the truck, just needs a new starter and gaskets to fix an oil leak that's caused the starter to go bad. Karen.
But it's just a few blocks away, and it's hot out here.
Me. I can't trust my truck not to leave me stranded with no way to get it home. Karen.
It will be fine.
Me. Maybe, but I'm not willing to risk it. Karen slaps the side of my truck and continues on our walk, and I go home in my truck. Another 3 days go by, and more banging on my door, and again I'm awakened. It's 7:15 a.m. This time I'm angry, and I snatch the door open. Me.
What?
Karen, standing there with her purse and house keys in her hand as if she knows I'll say yes.
I need to go to the mattress store. I need to pick up my new queen-size mattress.
Me. No, my truck still isn't running right.
But I need your truck to hold the mattress home.
Me. No. Karen.
It's not a heavy mattress.
Oh, so who's going to help you get it in and out of my truck and carry it into your house?
The 2 of us can do it.
Me. Karen, I have degenerative disc disease. The discs in my spine are disintegrating. I can't lift nor carry a mattress even with someone helping.
But I already bought it. How am I going to get it home?
Call friends or family to help you.
They don't have a truck, and you do.
Me. Yes, I have a truck, but there is no sign anywhere on it that says Free Moving Company. I close the door on her and go back to bed. An hour later, more knocking. This time it's an older man. Man 1. Excuse me, but is that your truck? He points at my truck in the parking lot. Me. Yes. Man. I have an upright piano I need to move and was wondering if I could use your truck. Me. No. I glance over at the neighbor's house and I see her peeking through a crack in the door. I have a sneaking suspicion she has put this guy up to this to see if I would help him. Man. You can drive the truck. I just need to have the piano hauled to my storage unit. Me. How are you going to get an upright piano into the bed of my truck? I'll just roll it on a ramp and put it into the back. Me. Do you know how much an upright piano weighs? One person can't push it up a ramp. If you use a ramp on my tailgate, you will break the tailgate and probably lose the piano in the process. My truck is large, but the rear end is not made for hauling a piano and will cause the front end to lift off the ground, preventing my front wheel drive from gaining traction and straining my 16-year-old engine. Man. Well, could you call 4 or 5 of your male friends to help lift it into the back of the truck? Me. No! I closed the door on this man too. He didn't come right out and say it, but I felt like he wanted to borrow my truck so he could go pick up the mattress for Karen. Yeah, I'm a little suspicious. The following morning, I ignore the knocking that occurs every half or so hours over a 3-hour period until she finally gives up. Later that afternoon, I open my door to get the mail out of the box when a second man approaches me out of nowhere. It's like he was hiding around the corner waiting for me to come out of my house. Man 2 points at my truck. It irritates me every time someone does this. Is that your truck? Me, feeling very annoyed and snarky. What gave it away? Is it because it's parked in a space, clearly labeled with my house number? Or is it because someone told you who the truck belonged to? I point at Karen's house. Man 2. Does it run? Me. Listen, I don't know what you're wanting me to pick up, deliver, move, haul, transport, or tow, but I am not a moving company, taxi, Uber, delivery service, or a tow truck. I won't be doing any of those things, and before you ask, I won't be allowing you or anyone else to drive my truck either. Now, do you have any other questions? Man 2. Do you want to sell it? Me. What? Why would I want to sell it? Well, since it needs fixing, I thought maybe you would want to sell it to someone who could afford to fix it.
Me. How do you know it needs fixing?
Man 2 turns bright red and can't take his eyes off the ground. I just thought if you sold it, you could buy something else and I could fix the truck.
Me.
Tell Karen that I'm not selling you my truck so that you can fix it to give to her.
Man 2.
I wasn't going to give it to her.
Me.
Pointing at his huge truck parked in Karen's designated space. You want me to believe that you would rather have my 16-year-old truck that needs repair than your brand new truck? How stupid do you think I am? As the older man silently stares at the ground, Karen flings her door open and marches up to me. Karen.
Just sell him your truck so he can fix it.
You clearly aren't going to do it anytime soon.
At least I will put it to good use. And need it, and I need it more than you apparently do. Now, he's willing to get it fixed for me, so just sell him the dang truck already.
Me. My truck is not for sale. When or if I get my truck fixed, it's absolutely none of your business.
Karen. I'm going to call the office and tell them that you have a broken down truck sitting in the parking lot that needs to be hauled to the junkyard. They'll make you get rid of it or fix it.
Man 2. Karen, they can't do anything to her.
Karen cuts him off.
She's so angry, she's crying, shaking, and spitting as she screams.
Shut up! Stay out of this. I want that truck, and I'm going to get it. I'll call the police. They will make her get rid of it.
Man 2. Karen, the police aren't. She cuts him off again.
Yes, they will. They'll listen to me.
She storms off to call the police. In the meantime, I brought a chair outside, along with a can of soda and a bowl of microwave popcorn. I figured this was going to be a good show. Karen and Man 2 have gone inside her house to wait. The neighbor to my left has come out to see what's going on. Let's call her Mary. Mary can't stand Karen, so she drags a chair out too and sits next to me, and we share my popcorn. Enter Cop 1 and Cop 2. The cops arrive in about 5 to 6 minutes and walk up to Karen's door and knock, while glancing around at Mary and me and grinning. She answers and tells them that I have created an eyesore in the neighborhood by having an old, beat-up, broken-down truck sitting in the parking lot, and she wants it removed immediately. Cop 1, pointing at my truck. Yep, he does it too, and I can't help but roll my eyes. That truck? Karen.
Yes.
Cop 1. That truck is clean, shiny, no dents, no scratches, new tires. Are you sure that's the eyesore?
Karen. Yes, it's 10 years old and broken, and she doesn't want to fix it. It's just sitting there doing nothing for months.
Me. It's 16 years old. Cop 2 spins around, surprised. Seriously? That truck is that old? Wow, it's in great shape. You've taken good care of her. Me. Thank you. Karen.
I want that truck gone.
Cop 2 walks over to me to discuss my truck's mechanical history. So I explain to him that in the 16 years that I have owned her, I've changed her oil every 3 to 4 months, given her a bath once a month, got her a new set of tires 6 years ago, and when I first began having problems with her starting, I bought a new battery. The old one was the original battery from when I bought the truck off the showroom floor, and when the battery wasn't the problem, I had a mechanic come and look at it. He determined that it was the starter and the gasket was leaking. All I was waiting on was my friend to come and help me start her. Someone needs to get under the truck and tap the starter while someone else turns over the ignition so that I can get it to the mechanic's house for him to work on it. Karen.
She's lying. That truck hasn't moved in 3 months.
Me, offering popcorn to Cop 2, who took a handful. Wrong. It hasn't moved in 4 days. It's had problems for 3 or 4 months. Cop 1. Miss Karen, there really isn't anything the police department can do for you. Her truck definitely isn't an eyesore, nor is it sitting there in pieces, creating a safety hazard. Karen.
She's driving down property values.
Cop 1 starts chuckling. Miss Karen, you are renting a house in government-subsidized senior housing. Cop 2. Why don't you tell us the real reason why you want her truck removed? Mary, who has been silent until now, stands up and turns on her best diva soul sister voice and attitude and gives the cops the greatest, deep south, beautiful black woman sermon I've ever heard. I'll try to write as best I can.
Oh Lord Jesus, help us all. This here woman of the night want everything she can't have. Lord, I think it's 'cause she pulls her hair back so tight. Lord, she can only see what's in the back of her mind. She wants her old saggy boy toy of the day here to buy my friend's pick-em-up truck so she can go and pick 'em up. Lord, If you're getting what I'm saying, he buy it and trade it to her for a little roll on her nasty sheets. Lord Jesus help us. And she thinks she all hot. So you believe her and take away my friend's truck. She a fool. Uh-huh. She thinks she can fool you too. Uh-huh. How the heck do you think she got those 2 big TVs in there? Mm-hmm.
Cop 1 is bent over, laughing hysterically, while Cop 2 is standing with his mouth open and his eyes wide. Cop 2 turns to Man 2. Is any of that true? Man 2, embarrassed, humiliated, and just looking tired. She wanted the truck and $50. Karen and Man 2 are arrested. Not sure what the exact charges were, but I heard words being thrown around like pandering, solicitation, scamming, and false complaint among others. A couple of days later, Mary told me that Karen returned home. I guess she found a way to get bailed out. I haven't seen her, and I'm hoping that I don't. As for my pick-em-up truck, I'm still waiting to get her to the mechanic. My friend will be here on his next day off. He doesn't get them often, to help me. It's a good thing I'm a patient person with a super diva as a friend and neighbor. It's also good to know that my truck is at least worth one 20-minute roll on the sheets and $50. Edit. Thank you for the awards, everyone. And just a little side note for those of you rolling your eyes at the fact that I offered a cop popcorn and he took it. I live in the Deep South in a smallish college town. The cops here are helpful, friendly, until provoked, and generally good guys. When construction workers stole from me after Hurricane Laura, 2 cops came to investigate, and afterwards I offered them both a bottle of water and they accepted. Have you ever had someone try to use you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know.
You use me in these videos all the time, Mr. Reddit. I'm the only reason people watch.
Entitled parent decides to mess with me in the checkout line. I finally had my Karen in the Wild experience yesterday morning. I live in the southeastern US, and we have a popular small box retailer here with a yellow sign in black letters. They are all over the rural South and in many places act as grocery and general stores to the community. I needed to stop and get an item for my vehicle before I ran morning errands, so I dropped in at our local neighborhood store, found the item and a couple of other things I wanted, and got in line. I am very conscientious about wearing a mask when I go out and steering very clear of those who don't. The line was fairly long for a Saturday morning, and I was then 3rd or 4th customer in line. This store funnels all customers into a sort of a tunnel lined with impulse purchases, lighters, candy, magazines, small toys, that sort of thing, for checkout, and there are 3 cashier stations along the line. Only one was manned at that point. The customer in front of me was a late 30-ish woman with a daughter who looked to be about 10 or so. This was entitled Mom and OK Kid. The kid wasn't so bad. She had on a cute dog face mask, but entitled Mom wasn't wearing one at all. She was pushing a half-full cart of items. OK Kid asks for a candy bar, and entitled Mom says it's okay. Kid reaches for a nearby bar of candy. Then entitled Mom starts looking at the candy, scanning the rows, and her eyes find what she wants near where I am standing. Luckily, the person behind me was not only standing at least 6 feet back, but had a cart between us as well. So as the entitled Mom came towards me, I started backing away. She kept coming closer, and I kept backing up, which she noticed. When I hit the cart behind me, she smiled at me and said, "Looks like you're trapped," and kept coming towards me. Well, I walk with a cane. At that point, I raised the cane so that it was between us and said, "Please stop coming towards me. You aren't wearing a mask." She stopped and laughed, then said, "Are you going to hit me with your cane, old lady?" I glared at her and said, "If you come any closer, I will. I'm feeling very threatened." She laughed again, then put her hand up to her ear and said, "What? Couldn't hear you. Say again. Your mask is making it hard to understand you." And laughing. Then her daughter started laughing too. About that time, another employee came over to open the second register, which I was standing directly in front of. Usually they say, "I can help the next customer here." But instead, she said, "I can ring you up, ma'am," to me. I put my purchases down on the counter, and she reached for the first item to scan. Entitled Mom said, "Hey, wait, I was next," and started backing up toward me again, with her cart in tow. The cashier said, "Ma'am, you have already passed me. The next cashier will have to take care of you." Entitled Mom didn't like this, but turned back forward to see the first cashier had already finished ringing up the customer in front of Entitled Mom and had turned her station light off, signaling that she was closed. Entitled Mom said, "Hey, where are you going? You haven't rung me up." The first cashier said, "Sorry, I'm scheduled for my break now, and I will get written up if I don't go on time," and walked away out the door. Entitled Mom is now fuming and turns back to the second cashier. Entitled Mom waits for my cashier to be done with my purchase, then starts to back up again. This makes it impossible for me to leave, as we are in that tunnel, and I said, "Ma'am, you are going to have to go forward and leave the tunnel so I can get out." She stops and says,
"Oh, just squish by me. You act like I have the plague or something."
I looked directly at her and said, "As far as I am concerned, you do." She huffed and pushed her cart forward and out of the tunnel, and I was able to squeeze by her safely. Behind me, I heard the cashier start ringing up the customer behind me who had a pretty full cart, and I turned and saw that the line behind me had 5 people in it now. The Entitled Mom yelled,
"Hey, I was next."
And as I was going out the door, she turned her buggy back into the tunnel the wrong way. Then I heard the cashier say, "Ma'am, you can't come back in here the wrong way. You have to get back in line." Unintelligible barking came from the Entitled Mom as I went out the door. I admitted, I was grinning behind the mask. As I was getting into my vehicle, the first cashier was around the corner of the store having a smoke break. She finished her cigarette, put it in the ash post, and said, "I hate people like that. We love messing with them. Sorry she bothered you." I laughed out loud at that point and said, "Hey, this will make a good story for Reddit." She laughed too and went on in the store. No idea what Entitled Mom did after that, but I noticed as I passed her when I left the store that she was wearing a scrub top for a local pediatrician's office. Think I might make a phone call on Monday asking them how they feel about one of their staff terrorizing those in the community who choose to wear a mask and socially distance. P.S. Ladies, if either of you read this, thank you. I appreciate you being there for us. Am I the jerk for kicking out my sister after she tried to flirt with my husband? I, 27 female, have a little sister, Emily, who's 20. My husband, 27 male, and I have been together since our college days. Back when we started dating, Emily then seemed to have this little crush on my husband, then boyfriend. She would blush in his presence, stutter while talking to him, etc. We assumed that the crush went away as she grew older, and her behavior indicated so. My husband thinks of Emily as the little sister he never had and treats her as such. We've not had much contact with Emily over the years, as we live in a different state at the other side of the country, and she's been busy with her schooling. Last week, my parents and Emily were visiting our house for my birthday weekend. From the moment Emily arrived, she would not stop flirting with my husband, from excessively complimenting everything he did to proclaiming things like they would make a great pair, etc. My husband looked very uncomfortable, and so did my parents. I don't know how we got through the dinner. After the evening was done, my husband asked me if there was something wrong with Emily, and why was she behaving like that. He said she made him very uncomfortable and asked me to talk to her. So I found her alone and tried telling her that it was fine if she had/has a crush, but it's never fine to make anyone uncomfortable. I told her that it would be nice if she kept her distance for the remaining 2 days they were here, since he was not okay with this behavior. She said she wasn't being flirty or improper. I told her that she was indeed being inappropriate and that it was very creepy that she would try to flirt with my husband. She got very defensive and said that I was being insecure, and I quote,
"If I was really flirting with him, you wouldn't stand a chance."
I lost it at this point and told her that she's no longer welcome in our house and should buzz off the first thing in the morning. Emily and my parents left the very next day, even though my dad agreed that Emily's behavior throughout the evening was very inappropriate and that she should apologize to my husband. Mom thinks nothing of that sort happened, and all 3 of us are being delusional, and that it was a wrong move to kick Emily, and by extension her, out of my house when they had traveled all the way here. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
If my sister tried something like that, she wouldn't be around much longer.
Following directions to adhere to company food safety procedures cost the company in excess of $25,000. Several years ago, I was working as the manager of the meat department in a large Australian supermarket chain. I had been pulled up for minor issues relating to food safety in the past, mainly relating to temperature checks and cabinet cleaning. During the discussions about these issues, I was told, as well as recorded in writing, that the food safety guidelines are a legal document and are not up for negotiation or interpretation and must be adhered to the letter. Remember that quote. Fast forward to a few days before Christmas. My store was one of the busiest in the region, so the meat case and cool rooms were packed to the absolute max with stock. Hams, roasts, turkeys, the whole works. It was the same store-wide, absolutely maxed out. Christmas in Australia is unlike most other places. It gets hot, dang hot. On this particular day, the temperature outside was pushing 45 degrees Celsius, approximately 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Aircon and fridges were all working hard to keep everything cool when suddenly, at about 3 p.m., we have a store-wide blackout. Usually, we have a backup generator which would kick in and keep the cool rooms running. So the worst case, stock could be emptied out of the cabinets and into the rooms to keep it food safe. Well, for some reason, the generator didn't kick in and the store was completely without power and running on emergency lighting only. We evacuated the store and were contacting technicians, etc. to get things running again. I checked the food safety guidelines book, and the policy in such a situation was to monitor the temperature of stock every 15 minutes, and if it reaches over 4 degrees Celsius and stays there for more than 2 hours, all affected stock must be discarded. Being such a hot day, the temperature had already breached the 4 degrees upper limit when I did the first check, meaning the countdown was on to get things running again. I documented absolutely every step of the way, following the guidelines to the letter. At 4:45 p.m., with 15 minutes to go until the deadline, I went to the office and got a handheld scanner in preparation for what was to come, and was spotted by the store manager who asked what I was doing. I told him that I was getting it to begin dumping stock. We argued back and forth, with him saying that the stock would be fine and that a refrigerated truck was on the way to move everything into. It ended in me saying, "The guidelines are a legal document. By ordering me to go against what they say, you're instructing me to break the law, which I am respectfully refusing." At 5 p.m., I began scanning off and dumping stock from my case. I had already almost filled an entire dumpster with stock when the refrigerated truck turned up. The manager once again instructed me and the fellow department managers to take our now unsafe stock and move it into the truck. Everyone hesitated, but I flat out refused and continued dumping my stock. He eventually revoked my access to the handheld scanner in order to stop me, so I called the area manager, his boss, and explained the situation and what he had instructed. Area manager said although it was never public, there was actually some built-in wiggle room between the company policy and the legislated state code, and that although it breaches the company policy, the state food safety code hadn't yet been breached, but was furious that the store manager had instructed me to intentionally breach the company policy. I told the area manager that I had been instructed and documented to follow the food safety guidelines to the absolute letter, and that the policy was non-negotiable and not up for interpretation. He agreed that I had done the correct thing by dumping the stock, and also agreed that I was within my rights to refuse the orders of the store manager, thinking they were illegal. All in all, I dumped about $25,000 worth of stock, and my team got a ton of overtime to bring the case and stock levels back up to presentable standards for Christmas. The manager got a very severe reprimand and was fired for an unrelated issue not long after. Am I the jerk for telling my friend it's not my job to get presents for her kids? I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. Part of me feels like I could have just sucked it up. Backstory below. I, 27, female, live in a major city. I moved out of my hometown when I was 18 for college, and upon graduation got a full-time job in said city. I have a great job in wealth management and make great money. This will come into play later. Since moving away, I visit a few times a year. Kelly and I have been good friends for 6 years, and she has a daughter and a son, aged 5 and 3. I love her kids and spoil them to no end. Every time I come up for a visit, I'm always bringing them presents and stuff I've accumulated in the months of my weekly TJ Maxx trips. I never show up empty-handed for these kids, and I love them. I don't know how to put this because I feel like a bad person saying this, but as the years go on, we just don't have much in common. I have a long-term boyfriend, and I'm constantly getting asked, "When's the engagement? You should get engaged soon so you can have kids ASAP." I'm still young. I like being obligation-free, going out and partying, pre-lockdown obviously. I like having intellectually stimulating conversations with people. I hope it doesn't come off as shallow, but I've just noticed lately I get incredibly bored because the conversations go nowhere. Kelly and her husband have finance troubles, so when we go out, I'm always offering to pay for dinner, always paying when we take our kids to activities like amusement parks or zoos. Although I'm not around as much in their life because I live out of state, I am always insisting that I take them places or do fun things with their kids. They don't struggle with money because they make minimum wage. They struggle because they don't budget. On to event. I went Black Friday shopping with her and was picking up a lot of toys. When she asked who they were for, I explained to her that I adopted a family of underprivileged kids to get presents for. I knew the toys would be going directly to said kids and that it wasn't some scam. Especially with everything going on right now, I wanted to give back, so I opted to shop for these 3 boys, and told her that since I have no kids of my own to shop for, I wanted to spend my extra bonus money on them. She looks me dead in the eyes and goes,
What do you mean you don't have any kids to shop for? You could use it on my kids. You know how much we struggle sometimes, and you make so much money.
Let me be perfectly clear. Her 2 kids are already spoiled beyond words, not just by me, but everyone. These kids have more than kids frankly ever need. I'm trying to do the right thing for kids who need it, and I told her this much. I exploded and told her everything I said above, and she started crying. I immediately felt like crap because she's a good friend and I love her kids, but I obviously already got them a few things, and not all of my money needs to go to them. Well, who do you agree with? OP or her friend? Please let us know.
I just want to know what you're going to get me for Christmas. Perhaps something I can hang on the wall that says live, laugh, love. Yes.
So Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
They're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, or Karen,
what?
To record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never!
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will!